Imagine a world of absolute darkness, where a single sovereign rules without a single word, weaving thousands of separate lives into one breathing family through pure chemical sorcery. These are not mere insects. They are tiny mathematicians capable of understanding the abstract concept of zero, navigating a world painted in glowing ultraviolet lights invisible to us. But this golden empire is no paradise. It is a stage for brutal survival, where invaders are cooked alive in living furnaces, and a changing climate threatens to silence their ancient dance forever. Slow down. Listen closely to the soundtrack of the sun, and let the 100-million-year-old symphony of the hive carry you away. Welcome to the secret world of the bee. Welcome, lovely dreamers, and a warm embrace to the Dreamy Science Stories space. Tonight, we gently step into the soft, comforting world of the bee. These tiny artisans paint our afternoons with their soothing, low-frequency music, acting as the silent matchmakers of the floral kingdom and brewing a golden elixir that has captured human affection for countless generations. Within their miniature bodies lies a brilliant architect, a poet of movement, and a tireless explorer. Steering their flight paths by the golden compass of the sun, they harmonize as a singular conscious entity, gently reshaping the Earth's vital lungs through their perpetual devotion. Their ecosystem is a fascinating tapestry where the familiar meets the profound, a quiet miracle unfolding in our backyards every day, yet always whispering secrets we have yet to unravel. If you find peace in these slow, immersive journeys into nature's quiet corners, perhaps consider subscribing, leaving a gentle thumbs up, or sharing your own evening reflections below. Your presence here helps illuminate the path for other wandering minds, welcoming one sleepy traveler at a time. For now, there is nothing left for you to accomplish. Simply soften into your blankets, let go of the day's weight, and allow the rhythmic, lulling symphony of the hive to sweep you away into absolute rest. Let us begin our journey. A tiny aviator's wings flutter at an astonishing pace of over 200 strokes in the span of a single second. Whenever a honeybee drifts gracefully past your ear, that soothing, velvet vibration you perceive is actually the rapid choreography of its flight. With every tick of the clock, those gossamer, delicate wings cycle through more than 200 oscillations, occasionally accelerating to an incredible 230 beats. It is this breathtaking velocity that births the iconic, low-frequency hum that we instinctively pair with quiet summer afternoons. The wings themselves are masterpieces of natural engineering, microscopically thin and entirely translucent, stretched over delicate structures like the most exquisite, weightless silk. They are anchored to dense, specialized muscle clusters nestled within the insect's thorax, which compress and release with unbelievable rapid-fire precision. This tireless mechanical engine generates a steady column of lift, effortlessly hoisting the creature's weight even when its legs are heavily weighted down with fresh pollen granules or rich floral juices. Fascinatingly, the pitch of this miniature engine shifts in perfect harmony with the traveler's cargo. A light, unburdened explorer sailing through the breeze resonates at a distinctly different frequency than a dedicated worker carrying a heavy harvest back to the sanctuary of the hive. Subtle clues suggest that these intelligent creatures might even intentionally modulate their wing vibrations as a form of silent dialogue, or to gently coax reluctant petals into releasing their hidden pollen. That gentle, sleepy hum comforting you on a warm day is actually a pinnacle of biological engineering, an organic motor running hundreds of times faster than the peaceful beating of your own resting heart. Bees navigate through a breathtaking canvas of colors that remain entirely locked away from the human experience. When these insects land upon a blossoming petal, their eyes interpret a visual reality that is completely separated from our own. They possess the rare gift of perceiving ultraviolet light, an entire spectrum of radiant color that lies just beyond the threshold of our sensory understanding. Because of this, Flowers have spent millions of years painting themselves with secret, ultraviolet signposts, invisible landing strips engineered specifically to guide these winged travelers directly toward their hidden reservoirs of sweet nectar. Where our eyes see nothing more than a simple, monochromatic yellow petal, a honeybee perceives a brilliant target of bold ultraviolet stripes, intricate spots, or radiant bullseyes pointing straight toward the heart of the blossom. This secret world of vibrant artistry is quietly displayed all around us, etched onto the very fabric of our gardens in patterns we can never truly see with our own eyes. Their perception of the world is uniquely specialized in other ways as well. While they are practically blind to the crimson waves of red light, which fade into deep shadow for them, their visual cells are extraordinarily attuned to the vibrant frequencies of blues, emerald greens, and the glowing realm of the ultraviolet. This highly evolved sensory arrangement allows them to spot the most nutritious blossoms from afar, tracking their flight paths across changing terrains with immaculate precision. The scenery we enjoy is undeniably beautiful, but the secret landscape viewed by a bee is infinitely more magnificent, encoded with invisible maps written in the soft language of hidden light. Throughout her brief, purposeful journey, a solitary foraging bee will intimately acquaintance herself with thousands of individual blossoms. The life of a dedicated worker is a beautiful testament to constant movement, driven by an unwavering devotion to her colony. During her fleeting presence on this earth, which typically lasts only 5 to 6 weeks amidst the bustling energy of the summer season, a single insect will travel between an almost unimaginable number of flowers. Field observations reveal that a single gatherer can visit as many as 2,000 blossoms over the course of a single day, drifting from one petal to the next in a perpetual, quiet quest for sweet nectar and golden pollen grains. As the days blend into weeks, this endless loop culminates in tens of thousands of individual floral encounters. Each interaction is brief and elegant, lasting a mere handful of seconds as she extends her delicate tongue to sip the sweet fluids or brushes her velvet body against pollen-covered stalks. This quiet, ceaseless labor serves an essential purpose far beyond the survival of the hive itself. It is the very breath of life for the flora. With every gentle touchdown, she inadvertently carries vital dust from one blossom to another, allowing the plant kingdom to renew itself and scatter its seeds across the earth. The humble bee, so small and easily missed in the grand expanse of nature, operates as one of the planet's most impactful caretakers. Her transient existence is spent entirely in quiet service, beautifully balancing the survival of her family with the endless blooming of the natural world. Honeybees share vital secrets with one another through a fluid, geometric language of movement. Known to science as the waggle dance, this behavior stands as one of the most intellectually sophisticated forms of communication in the entire animal kingdom. When a solitary scout stumbles upon an abundant oasis of wild nectar or rich pollen, she hurries back to the dark sanctuary of her hive to map out the exact location for her sisters through a highly detailed choreography. The mathematics of this dance are stunningly accurate. She tracks a rhythmic figure-8 path across the vertical surface of the honeycomb, vigorously vibrating her abdomen whenever she passes through the straight, central line of her movement. The exact angle of this vibrating run relative to gravity translates directly to the direction of the food source in relation to the current position of the sun in the sky. Meanwhile, the precise duration of her vibrant run tells her listening sisters exactly how far they must fly across the landscape. A longer, more drawn-out vibration signals a journey that lies further across the horizon. Through this performance, conducted entirely within the pitch-black darkness of the crowded hive, these creatures can communicate geographic locations up to several miles away with breathtaking accuracy. The surrounding workers monitor her movements in the dark, gently tracing the dancer's form with their sensitive antennae before taking flight to locate the exact patch of flowers described. This mesmerizing dance is a true symbolic language, an evolutionary marvel that allows these insects to share complex cartographic data without ever needing a single sound or a visual image. Long before the first human footsteps left their imprints upon the earth, these ancient societies were already masterfully refining the art of honey making. Geological records tell us that bees have graced our planet for an immense stretch of time, persisting for at least 100 million years. They evolved in perfect harmony with the emergence of the world's very first flowering plants during the prehistoric Cretaceous era. The most ancient piece of physical evidence we possess is a beautifully preserved specimen trapped within a tear of fossilized tree resin from Myanmar, dating back roughly 100 million years. This ancient voyager, locked in her amber tomb, already featured many of the hallmark traits we observe in modern hives today, including the specialized, feathery body hairs designed to catch and hold stray pollen grains. The production of honey likely began as a brilliant survival strategy, a way for these early societies to preserve essential energy during long stretches when the prehistoric flora ceased to bloom. By concentrating raw floral nectar and transforming it into honey, a deeply dense, pure, and spoil-proof sugar, these ancient insects invented a reliable food source that could endure harsh winters or unexpected periods of environmental drought. This brilliant innovation allowed their colonies to grow into grand societies and expand across vastly different climates. When you enjoy the sweetness of honey today, you are interacting with a formula that has remained completely unchanged across vast stretches of deep time. A golden thread connecting us directly to an ancient world where dinosaurs still walked, and the earth was a profoundly different place. A single thriving hive can serve as a sanctuary for up to 80,000 individuals, all blending their unique lives into a singular, breathing consciousness. A honeybee colony operates less like a collection of separate insects and more like a singular superorganism. Thousands of distinct bodies moving with such exquisite harmony that they function as one massive, thinking entity. At the absolute peak of the warm summer months, a prosperous colony can house anywhere from 60,000 to 80,000 citizens, sometimes swelling even larger. The overwhelming majority of this population consists of female worker bees, sterile daughters of the hive who patiently execute every physical task required to sustain their home. Alongside them live a few hundred male drones during the reproductive season, and one solitary queen who holds the sacred duty of birthing every future generation. Despite the massive crowd packed within the dark walls of the hive, the entire colony operates with a breathtaking natural efficiency. There is no central supervisor, no governing voice handing out daily orders. Instead, each individual bee listens to a quiet set of internal rules dictated by her current age and the immediate chemical needs she senses in her immediate surroundings. The youngest workers dedicate their early days to internal housekeeping, sanitizing empty wax cells, nursing developing larvae, and sculpting new architecture. As they grow older, they transition into fearless foragers, venturing out into the vast horizon. Through a delicate web of pheromones, tactile touch, and the gentle vibrations of their wings, these thousands of minds blend into a living system that regulates its own temperature, manages its resources, and protects its home as if it were a single, dreaming mind. The elegant, flawless geometry of the honeycomb is not gathered from the outside world, but is gently sweated out from the very bodies of the bees themselves. Those immaculate hexagonal storage chambers are constructed entirely from pure beeswax secreted by the young workers. When a bee reaches between 12 and 18 days of age, her body activates specialized wax glands located on the underside of her abdomen, which produce microscopic, paper-thin flakes of pure wax. These delicate scales are nearly transparent, requiring the insect to meticulously harvest and shape them using her legs and powerful mandibles to make them structural. She chews the raw wax flakes, blending them with her own enzymes and hints of pollen until the material transforms into a highly pliable structural clay. Only then does she carefully pat it into place to build new nurseries or mend old storage walls. This architectural process demands an immense amount of energy from the colony. It takes roughly 8 pounds of honey consumed by the workers to produce just a single pound of pure beeswax. Because this material is so metabolically expensive to create, the insects are extraordinarily careful with its design. They arrange their comb into flawless hexagonal grids because this specific shape is a masterclass in geometry. It uses the absolute minimum amount of wax while yielding the absolute maximum storage volume and physical strength. The hexagon is a true triumph of natural physics, and the fact that these tiny creatures instinctively weave this pattern in total darkness, without a single blueprint or instruction, is one of the many peaceful miracles of their quiet existence. Some gentle explorers choose the velvety sanctuary of blossoms as their nighttime resting place, while the bustling honeybees journey back to the crowded warmth of their central colony each evening. A multitude of solitary species follow a beautifully independent twilight routine. Lacking a permanent fortress or shared home, these individual souls wander freely across the landscape. As the sun dips below the horizon and dusk paints the world in deep shadow, they seek out whatever rustic shelter the meadow provides. Crawling deep into the fragrant heart of a closing flower, they anchor themselves securely, gripping the delicate petals or pollen stalks with their tiny mandibles. Here, they surrender to absolute stillness, safely insulated from the chilly night air until the first amber rays of dawn return. Certain blossoms seem to intentionally embrace these weary travelers, offering a tailor-made cradle for the night. Photographers have occasionally glimpsed these enchanting, silent moments, capturing tiny, delicate bodies dusted in golden pollen, wrapped in the peaceful embrace of soft petals. In this dormant state, their internal fires cool, and their fast-paced metabolisms slow down into a deep, meditative rhythm. When morning arrives, they do not immediately take flight. Instead, they bask quietly, waiting for the golden sun to warm their bodies before spreading their wings once more to greet the new day. It may sound like a fairy tale, but these miniature creatures possess the astonishing capability to recognize and remember individual human faces. In meticulous laboratory environments, researchers discovered that bees could easily be trained to distinguish specific human portraits when rewarded with a sip of sweet sugar water. Not only did they differentiate one face from another with remarkable precision, but they also retained these visual memories for several days. This feat becomes truly mind-boggling when you consider that a bee's entire mind functions with fewer than 1 million neurons, an infinitesimal fraction compared to the billions humming inside a human brain. They achieve this complex processing not by understanding human features the way we do, but by translating our faces into intricate geometric configurations of light and shadow, much like the ancient geometric blueprints they used to identify rewarding wildflowers. This deep pattern recognition is the very foundation of their survival, allowing them to map out rich foraging grounds, identify distinct floral families, and memorize landmarks across their vast territories. The fact that their tiny minds can seamlessly extend this wild blueprint to human features reveals an incredible depth of cognitive sophistication. The next time a solitary bee hovers near you, appearing to linger in curious contemplation, she may very well be sketching the unique architecture of your face into her memory for future reference. At the literal and metaphorical center of every thriving colony rests the queen, a majestic figure distinguished by her elongated form and a singular, sacred calling. She functions as the universal mother to every soul within the hive, and her creative endurance is nothing short of miraculous. During the fertile peaks of spring and summer, a healthy queen will generate between 1,500 and 2,000 eggs every single day, maintaining this astonishing rhythm week after week without pause. Each microscopic capsule is placed with elegant precision into a freshly manicured wax cell, oriented perfectly to ensure the healthy development of the life within. She is never alone. A devoted circle of worker daughters attends to her every need, constantly nourishing her with pure royal jelly, grooming her velvet form, and keeping her surroundings immaculate. The queen's body operates as a magnificent living factory, converting rich nutrients into new life at a speed that defies imagination. Over her lifespan, which can beautifully stretch from 3 to 5 years, she may bring more than 1 million offspring into the world. This endless cradle of life is what keeps the collective consciousness of the hive vibrant and strong. Without her perpetual creation, the colony's numbers would swiftly fade into silence. She is not a tyrant who dictates orders, but the beating, vital heart that sustains the entire living tapestry. Pure honey is one of the very few substances on Earth that possesses the gift of absolute immortality, entirely immune to the passage of time. When archaeologists excavated the dark, silent tombs of ancient Egypt, they unearthed sealed clay jars of honey over 3,000 years old, and upon breaking the seals, discovered the golden fluid was still perfectly sweet and entirely edible. The secret to this eternal longevity lies in a brilliant symphony of natural chemistry. Honey is an incredibly dense, concentrated sugar solution with a vanishingly low water content, typically hovering at a mere 17 to 18%. In this hyper-concentrated environment, bacteria and destructive microorganisms simply cannot survive, as any moisture they require for life is instantly pulled away by the dense sugar. Furthermore, honey is inherently acidic, maintaining a low pH between 3.2 and 4.5 that naturally repels microbial invaders. To secure this protection, bees introduce a specialized enzyme called glucose oxidase into the mix, which naturally generates microscopic traces of hydrogen peroxide, creating an organic shield against decay. When kept safe from external moisture in a sealed vessel, this golden treasure remains completely unchanged forever. It may naturally cloud or crystallize over time, turning into a grainy, solid texture, but this is merely a physical shift, not a sign of spoilage. Gently warming the jar in a bath of temperate water effortlessly coaxes it back into its smooth, flowing liquid form, a timeless sweetness that bridges the ancient past with our present moment. Beyond the creation of honey and pristine wax, these tiny alchemists brew a powerful, resinous shield known as propolis to fortify their homes. Worker bees seek out the sticky, aromatic tears weeping from tree buds, bark wounds, and hidden botanical sources, packing the gummy resin into the specialized baskets on their hind legs to carry home. Back inside the safety of the hive, they blend this raw saps with traces of their own saliva and pure beeswax, creating a dense, clay-like substance of a rich amber-brown hue. The colony utilizes this organic glue to caress away cracks, seal up unwanted drafts, and weatherproof their entire architecture against the coming cold. They use it to smooth out rough wooden terrains, narrow the hive's entrance against predators, and even completely mummify large invaders, like mice or beetles, that perish inside the walls and are too heavy to cast out. Yet, propolis is infinitely more than a simple structural mortar. It is infused with profound antimicrobial, antifungal, and antibacterial properties that transform the hive into a sterile, disease-free sanctuary. Throughout human history, ancient healers recognized these protective virtues, using the bee's sacred glue to soothe wounds, calm irritated throats, and fortify human vitality. The bees, however, pioneered this complex pharmacy millions of years before us, weaving the defensive lifeblood of the trees into a protective shield for their children. The diligent foragers you see dancing from blossom to blossom are entirely female, devoted daughters of the queen who shoulder every physical burden required to keep their society alive. During the intense, sun-drenched months of summer, their lives are beautifully purposeful, yet remarkably brief. A worker bee emerging into the warm summer air will typically live for only 5 to 6 weeks, her transient existence shifting through distinct occupational chapters dictated by her age. Her earliest days are spent deep within the nursery, meticulously cleaning out old cells to make room for new eggs or fresh honey stores. By her 6th day, her maternal instincts awaken as she begins nursing the developing larvae, blending pollen and honey into a rich, life-giving porridge. Around day 12, her wax-secreting glands activate, transforming her into an architect who builds and repairs the magnificent geometric combs. As she ages further, she graduates to the perilous post of hive guardian, standing watch at the entrance to inspect incoming travelers and defend against hostile intruders. Finally, around her 3rd week, she takes to the open sky as a seasoned forager, braving the elements to gather nectar, pollen, water, and resin. This final frontier is the most hazardous, and many never return, their lives claimed by predators, sudden storms, or pure physical exhaustion. When her wings finally fray and grow still, her journey ends. Yet, in a beautiful contrast of nature, the workers born into the quiet chill of autumn can endure for 5 to 6 months, clustering together in a peaceful, semi-dormant huddle to conserve their energy until the world blooms anew. The male members of the hive, known as drones, walk a path that is entirely separated from the industrious lives of their sisters. They never gather sweet nectar, they possess no tools to sculpt wax, and they do not stand guard at the gates. Their entire existence is intensely focused on a single, fateful reproductive mission. Drones are built visibly larger and broader than the female workers, featuring magnificent, oversized eyes that merge completely at the crown of their heads, an anatomical gift engineered solely to track a soaring queen against the bright expanse of the sky. Raised in specialized, spacious chambers, they are fed with immense generosity by their sisters throughout the warm seasons. On balmy afternoons, they take flight, drifting toward mysterious aerial meeting grounds known as drone congregation areas, where males from dozens of surrounding colonies gather in swirling clouds, waiting for a young queen to streak through the heavens. If a drone successfully matches her speed and fulfills his biological destiny, the triumph is instantly fatal. The intensity of the union claims his life, and he falls back to the earth in absolute completion. Those who do not find a queen return peacefully to the hive, continuing to share in the colony's sweet food reserves throughout the summer. However, when the golden light of autumn fades and winter starvation threatens the hive, the female workers execute a harsh, pragmatic decree, forcibly exiling every remaining male into the biting cold. Unable to forage for themselves and turned away at every door, the drones quietly perish in the frost, a poignant testament to a life entirely defined by the fleeting, magnificent possibility of continuation. Maintaining a flawless internal climate is a matter of life and death for the collective consciousness of the hive. The delicate, developing larvae and resting pupae tucked away in the nursery require an unyielding, stable warmth of around 33 to 36 degrees Celsius to mature into healthy adults. Should the temperature dip even a few degrees too low, the brood will perish or suffer profound developmental anomalies. If it climbs too high, the very wax architecture of their home risks softening and melting into ruin. To combat these environmental shifts, the colony has evolved an extraordinary cooperative method of thermal regulation. When the shadow of winter falls or a sudden chill creeps into the air, thousands of bees gather together in a dense, living blanket over the nursery cells. Uncoupling their wings from their internal flight machinery, they begin to rhythmically contract and vibrate their powerful thoracic muscles at a microscopic scale. This collective, invisible shivering transforms their bodies into miniature, organic heaters, radiating a gentle, steady wave of warmth that insulates the sleeping young against the harshest frost. When the internal climate of the hive falls below its optimal zone, the worker daughters gather into a dense, living blanket to initiate a beautifully synchronized rescue. By uncoupling their wings from their flight mechanics, they rhythmically contract their powerful thoracic muscles at a microscopic scale, radiating organic warmth in a cooperative process that mirrors the shivering of mammals. Those stationed on the chilly outer perimeter of this living sphere do not remain cold for long. In a continuous, elegant dance, they slowly rotate inward toward the glowing center, ensuring that every member of the society receives her share of warmth. On the most freezing winter nights, this cooperative huddle tightens into a dense shield, holding a warm and life-sustaining core even as the external world plunges far below freezing. This sophisticated mastery of climate is so deeply effective that tropical lineages have successfully migrated into northern, temperate landscapes where the winters are fiercely harsh. Through the beautifully coordinated devotion of thousands of individuals, the dark sanctuary of the hive transforms into a warm refuge, a perfectly preserved bubble of climate that shields the precious, sleeping brood through the long, freezing months. Conversely, when the summer sun beats down too fiercely, the preservation of cool air becomes the society's immediate salvation. If the internal heat climbs too high, the pristine wax architecture risks melting into ruin, and the delicate larvae face immediate dehydration. To prevent this, the insects employ a series of brilliant architectural defenses. At the hive's threshold, dedicated sentinels anchor themselves and fan their wings with fierce velocity, creating an artificial breeze that forcefully expels the trapped, hot air while drawing cooler drafts deep inside. On the most oppressive days, long, coordinated chains of bees form throughout the dark hallways, blending their wing beats into a massive, living ventilation system. Yet, their most sophisticated defense relies on the physics of evaporative cooling, adopting the exact principle behind human sweat. Forager bees embark on urgent journeys solely to gather fresh water, bringing the liquid treasure back to be painted across the surfaces of the nursery cells. As the house bees maintain their tireless fanning, the water slowly evaporates, absorbing the intense heat and cooling the nursery. When the landscape becomes sweltering, the citizens will gather on the exterior walls in a massive, hanging beard of bodies, a deliberate retreat that clears the crowded interior hallways to maximize the flow of cooling air. While these tiny alchemists enrich our world with golden sweetness, their greatest masterpiece on Earth is undoubtedly the gift of pollination. Roughly 1/3 of the entire human food supply relies fundamentally on the silent, inadvertent labor of the bee. The diverse abundance of our agricultural landscapes, from our finest orchard fruits and garden vegetables to rich nuts and the forage crops that sustain livestock, exists because these creatures travel from blossom to blossom. Apples, almonds, wild blueberries, sweet cherries, and crisp cucumbers depend entirely on these winged matchmakers to transfer vital dust between petals. Without this quiet intercession, the plant kingdom would fail to reproduce, and our orchards would yield no fruit. The economic landscape values this invisible labor in the tens of billions of dollars each year, yet its true value is entirely immeasurable, serving as the very foundation of global ecosystems and food security. While managed colonies are regularly transported across vast agricultural fields to support human farming, the wild societies, including robust bumblebees and independent solitary species, are equally indispensable caretakers of the earth. The quiet, daily business of a bee collecting her food inadvertently holds up the entire pyramid of terrestrial life. When a weary gatherer finally returns to the threshold of her home, she is frequently carrying in weight that seems to defy the very laws of physics. A single forager can pack a load of raw nectar within her specialized honey stomach, a dedicated internal reservoir completely separated from her digestive tract, that weighs nearly half as much as her own physical frame. Watching a heavily weighted explorer lift off into the evening sky is like witnessing a miniature cargo aircraft laboring under an immense shipment, Her flight becomes slow and deeply deliberate, and the pitch of her wing hum drops into a low, heavy bass as her muscles strain against gravity. For her solid cargo, she masterfully packs raw pollen into the specialized baskets on her hind legs, known to science as corbiculi. These concave structures are fringed with stiff, interlocking hairs where she blends the floral dust with a drop of nectar to make it structural. The resulting spheres can swell to the size of her own legs, glowing in shades of bright amber, deep orange, or even royal purple depending on the blossoms she visited. Navigating this vast treasure back to the hive, sometimes across miles of changing terrain, demands an unbelievable expenditure of energy. Her tiny body, no larger than a summer raindrop, functions as a magnificent cargo vessel, safely carrying home the vital nourishment that will feed the thousands of hungry mouths waiting in the dark. To find her way back to the sanctuary of the hive after wandering across a vast, winding landscape, the bee relies on the great golden compass of the sun. Equipped with a precise internal clock that accounts for the passage of time, she maps her direction by calculating the sun's shifting angle across the sky. Even when thick storm clouds obscure the sky, she can perceive the polarized patterns of light piercing through the gray canopy, using them as a natural navigation grid to guide her journey. As the day matures and the sun tracks its arc, her tiny mind continuously recalibrates her understanding of direction. When a successful gatherer executes her geometric waggle dance within the pitch-black hive, she is performing a brilliant feat of cognitive translation, converting the horizontal angle of the sun into a vertical angle danced across the dark honeycomb surface. This reliance on the sun, beautifully paired with a memory for prominent landmarks and familiar floral perfumes, grants her an incredibly sophisticated navigation system. Behavioral studies have revealed that these creatures can learn complex aerial highways, mapping out clever shortcuts and deliberately avoiding hazardous obstacles. For an entity operating with a brain no larger than a simple grass seed, this immaculate mastery of cartography is nothing short of extraordinary. Like every conscious entity on Earth, these tireless workers require the healing embrace of rest, and science has revealed that honeybees do indeed sleep, slipping into dreams that are uniquely their own. During these periods of deep tranquility, their sensitive antennae gently droop toward the earth, their internal fires cool slightly, and they become beautifully unresponsive to the bustling world around them. The younger daughters find rest directly within the cozy, empty cells of the honeycomb, often huddling together in quiet groups, while the older, weathered foragers seek out the peaceful, silent outer edges of the hive to sleep. Their rest does not unfold in one long, continuous slumber like human night. Instead, it is woven from dozens of short, restorative naps scattered across the day and night. Fascinatingly, observations suggest that their minds may even drift into the realm of dreaming. Researchers have noted that sleeping bees will occasionally twitch their legs and flex their antennae in rhythmic patterns that closely mirror the geometry of the waggle dance, as though their subconscious minds are practicing the sunny flight paths they traveled during the day. Sleep deprivation affects them with the same heavy gravity it visits upon humans. A tired bee loses the precision of her dance and becomes clumsy and inefficient in the field. When they are finally permitted to rest, they sink into an uncommonly heavy slumber to recover, leaving the midnight hive to hum with a gentle, hypnotic song while its workers rest, suspended in their own miniature dreams before the new dawn calls them back to labor. While honeybees prefer the clear, sun-drenched days of midsummer to explore the fields, their robust and velvet cousins, the bumblebees, are beautifully engineered to master the chilly northern breezes. These heavy-bodied explorers are cloaked in a remarkably thick, dense coat of specialized hair that functions as a perfect layer of insulation against the morning frost. Furthermore, they possess the unique ability to deliberately shiver their immense flight muscles to generate internal heat, warming their biological engines to a high temperature before ever leaving the ground. This thermal advantage allows bumblebees to begin foraging in crisp, early morning temperatures and endure much later into the fading chill of autumn than their honeybee relatives. In ecosystems defined by brief summers or cool climates, these velvet giants step forward as the primary caretakers of the flora. They are uniquely irreplaceable for specific crops, such as the wild tomato, which demand an elegant technique known as buzz pollination. The bumblebee embraces the blossom tightly and vibrates her flight muscles at a highly specific frequency, creating a resonance that violently shakes the hidden pollen free from the flower's deep pockets. Unlike the massive, permanent cities of the honeybee, most bumblebee societies are small and intimate, housing only a few hundred citizens. As autumn surrenders to winter, the entire colony peacefully dies away, leaving only the newly born queens to bury themselves deep in the earth, hibernating in solitary silence through the frost to awaken the world anew in the spring. Not every bee society seeks the high sanctuary of hollow trees or the wooden fortresses crafted by human hands. A vast, hidden multitude of solitary species chooses the deep, protective embrace of the earth itself. Known as ground-nesting bees, a family that includes the delicate mining bees, the robust digger bees, and the shimmering sweat bees. These independent spirits spend their lives excavating intricate subterranean architecture. Working entirely alone in the quiet soil, a solitary mother will sculpt a series of winding tunnels and polished chambers beneath the grass. Within these hidden earthen nurseries, she carefully deposits a handcrafted ball of rich pollen and sweet nectar, lays a single egg, and seals the chamber with a waterproof lining she secretes from her own body. Safe from the changing weather, the burning sun, and the eyes of predators above, her young develop in absolute darkness, cradled by the ancient warmth of the soil. As the evening deepens and the cold air settles over the meadow, millions of these quiet, subterranean homes rest undisturbed beneath our feet, a hidden world of independent architects sleeping soundly in the dark earth, waiting for the gentle whisper of spring to call them up into the light. The industrious mother excavates a vertical shaft straight down into the earth, occasionally penetrating as deep as a foot or more, before carefully carving out lateral chambers that branch away from the main tunnel. Within each secluded cradle, she meticulously packs a dense ration of blended pollen and sweet floral nectar, deposits a solitary egg, and seals the doorway with impressive masonry. Left entirely to its own devices, the developing larva matures in solitary comfort, feeding upon the nutrient-rich bounty prepared by its mother, before pupating and eventually emerging into the upper world as a fully formed adult. Certain subterranean species establish magnificent colonial aggregations where thousands of independent females choose to build their nurseries side by side, transforming a simple patch of bare soil into a sprawling, hyperactive metropolis of wings. These gentle diggers pose absolutely no threat to passers-by and almost never sting, as they lack a collective fortress or shared treasure to defend. A wanderer might easily step right past their hidden neighborhoods without ever realizing it, perhaps noticing nothing more than tiny mounds of freshly excavated earth featuring a perfect, hollow borehole at the center. These hidden underground sanctuaries serve as vital anchors for our ecosystems, and the solitary mothers who engineer them stand among the most invaluable native pollinators on our planet, quietly sustaining the flora from their secret worlds beneath our feet. In a beautiful display of rustic craftsmanship, the gentle mason bee utilizes raw, wet earth to construct a linear fortress inside hollow stems. Named for their sophisticated architectural habits, these docile, solitary creatures do not dig into the soil, preferring instead to seek out pre-existing cavities, such as the hollow chambers of dried reeds, ancient beetle borings in weathered timber, or the crafted wooden sanctuaries provided in peaceful backyard gardens. Once the expectant mother locates a suitable tunnel, her meticulous masonry begins. She journeys back and forth to nearby patches of damp clay, gathering tiny pellets of mud between her mandibles to fashion a sturdy back wall at the deepest end of the chamber. Next, she embarks on extensive foraging flights to gather a rich cushion of golden pollen and sweet nectar, packing it tightly into the cell. Upon this vibrant food mattress, she deposits a single egg before immediately raising a new mud partition to lock the chamber secure. She repeats this elegant sequence over and over, aligning a flawless row of compact apartments like a miniature train of life until the entire hollow tube is occupied. The final entrance receives an exceptionally thick, heavy earthen seal engineered to protect her sleeping children from the elements. Deep inside each dark cell, the young larva awakens, consumes its inheritance, spins a dense cocoon, and pupates, resting securely through the freezing winter winds until the gentle warmth of spring coaxes it to break through the mud and greet the sky. Operating with the delicate precision of a master tailor, the leafcutter belines her subterranean nurseries with flawless fragments harvested from the green world. These solitary artisans seek out narrow cavities much like their mason cousins, yet they choose to trade raw mud for the living fabric of leaves. Witnessing a leafcutter at work is like watching a mesmerizing silent ballet. She rests upon a branch, uses her specialized mandibles to shear a perfectly fluid circle or oval from the foliage, and instantly takes flight, carrying the green sail back to her hidden chamber. The geometry of her work is astonishing, with each piece cut to immaculate proportions without a single blueprint. She masterfully layers these overlapping fragments along the walls of the tunnel, creating a lush, insulated tube before curving the deep ends to form a series of tiny, thimble-shaped cradles that are entirely waterproof and secure. After provisioning each leafy nest with a delicate paste of nectar and pollen, she drops a single egg and seals the top with another series of neatly clipped green discs. She continues this serial construction until the narrow hollow is entirely filled with her emerald artistry. Her materials are frequently gathered from wild roses, lilacs, or ash trees, leaving behind distinct, almost perfect circular silhouettes on the foliage. This gentle pruning causes no real harm to the vibrant plants, and the immense pollination blessings these bees offer far outweigh the minor aesthetic marks left on the leaves, leaving behind a magnificent mosaic of green and brown safely tucked away from the world. The powerful carpenter bee chooses a much firmer canvas for her nurseries, methodically chewing deep tunnels into solid timber to shelter her future young. Often misidentified as bumblebees due to their large, robust forms, these solitary giants follow a completely different architectural calling. Rather than settling in abandoned rodent burrows or tangled grass, they utilize their exceptionally strong jaws to carve homes directly out of wood. The mother systematically grinds through the dense wooden fibers, carving a perfectly circular entrance hole that leads into a long gallery stretching a foot or more into the beam. This labor is remarkably slow and meditative, demanding days or even weeks of unyielding devotion. As she drills deeper into the grain, she pushes streams of fine sawdust backward out of the opening, leaving characteristic golden piles beneath her workspace. Once her grand hallway is complete, she partitions the long corridor into a series of private rooms using a mortar made from compressed wood pulp. Each individual cell is provisioned with a rich loaf of pollen and nectar before receiving a single egg, keeping her developing larvae safe from almost every predator. These architects show a distinct preference for weathered, untreated timber, often returning to expand the very same ancestral galleries year after year. While their long-term renovations can cause minor cosmetic markings on wooden structures, they rarely threaten the actual integrity of a building. The males are fiercely territorial, hovering like tiny helicopters and buzzing aggressively near the nest. Yet they possess no stingers and are entirely harmless, while the gentle females will only use their stingers if handled with extreme roughness. These winged creatures experience the sensory landscape through a marvelous arrangement that allows them to taste the world using both their feet and their tongues. When a honeybee settles upon a vibrant blossom, her understanding of that flower goes far beyond sight and scent. She instantly reads its chemical signature through her legs. Bees possess highly sensitive chemoreceptors located on their tarsi, the tiny segments at the very tips of their feet. The moment their limbs touch a petal, they can immediately perceive the presence of sugars, salts, or defensive plant chemicals, allowing them to instantly judge whether a blossom is worth investigating or if its nectar reservoirs have already been depleted by a previous visitor. This remarkable gift prevents them from wasting precious energy probing empty flowers, allowing them to move across the field with breathtaking speed. While their long, delicate tongues are perfectly designed for lapping up sweet fluids from deep floral tubes, this additional ability to taste upon landing turns every touchdown into an instant assessment. For a bee, the entire planet is a rich tapestry of flavors unrolling beneath her feet, where every single surface whispers crucial details, and every landing serves as a tiny, instantaneous taste test of life-giving sweetness or silent emptiness. Operating with an intellect that seems to defy the laws of scale, a bee's entire mind is safely contained within an organ no larger than a tiny grass seed. A honeybee's brain weighs a mere single milligram and operates with fewer than 1 million neurons, an infinitesimal fraction when compared to the 86 billion cells humming inside a human mind. Yet, despite this minimal neural hardware, these insects are fully capable of advanced learning, long-term memory formation, and remarkably complex decision-making. They can easily be trained to link abstract colors, geometric shapes, and intricate fragrances with food rewards. They can count up to 4 or 5, grasp the sophisticated mathematical concept of zero, and even decode symbolic representations. Researchers have successfully taught these tiny entities to solve intricate mazes, unlock complex puzzles to reach sugar rewards, and even distinguish between entirely different artistic movements in human paintings. This profound cognitive efficiency suggests that true intelligence does not necessarily require a massive, energy-expensive brain, but rather an incredibly streamlined organization and dense connectivity. Their tiny mind is neatly partitioned into specialized lobes dedicated to visual processing, memory storage, and motor coordination, much like the brains of larger vertebrates. Everything a bee knows, from the recognition of a specific orchid to the complex mathematics of the waggle dance, is processed within this microscopic space, proving that nature can pack breathtaking sophistication into the smallest corners of existence. While a casual glance at a bee's head might reveal only 2 large, dark eyes, these creatures actually navigate their 3-dimensional world using a total of 5 separate eyes. The 2 prominent spheres dominating the sides of their head are complex compound structures, each assembled from thousands of microscopic hexagonal lenses, known as ommatidia. A typical honeybee features roughly 6,000 to 7,000 of these tiny lenses per eye, with each individual facet capturing a minute segment of the surrounding landscape. The bee's brain blends these thousands of inputs into a detailed visual mosaic, granting them an exceptional ability to detect the slightest movements and providing an incredibly wide, panoramic field of view. Perched high upon the crown of the bee's head are 3 additional, smaller simple eyes called ocelli, neatly arranged in a sharp triangle. These simple eyes do not perceive fine details or shapes. Instead, they function as hypersensitive light meters that track changes in light intensity. This unique sensitivity allows the bee to instantly calculate her orientation in relation to the horizon and register shifts in the sky's illumination, acting as an organic stabilization system during rapid flight. Together, this magnificent array of 5 eyes provides the bee with a deeply rich, multi-layered visual reality, allowing her to track moving targets and react instantly to environmental shifts. Among the many secrets hidden within the hive, royal jelly stands as one of the most mysterious and transformative substances ever produced by the natural world. This creamy, pearlescent white elixir is not gathered from fields or flowers, but is elegantly secreted from specialized hyperingeal glands located in the heads of young worker nurses. While every single larva hatched into the colony is nourished with this royal fluid for the first few days of its life, the vast majority are quickly transitioned to a simpler, rustic diet of coarse pollen and honey. However, if a female larva is chosen by the collective to become the future matriarch of the society, she is fed royal jelly exclusively and abundantly throughout her entire development. This intense, super-concentrated diet triggers a completely different epigenetic pathway within her developing body, causing her to grow vastly larger, altering her anatomy, and gifting her with functional reproductive organs. Through the simple alchemy of this sacred food, an ordinary larva is transformed into a long-lived, magnificent queen, illustrating how deeply nourishment can shape destiny within the quiet sanctuary of the hive. Though she's sharing an identical genetic blueprint with the humble worker daughters, the contrasting diet provided during her larval infancy shapes a completely distinct adult form. Royal jelly is a rich concentrate of specialized proteins, sugars, essential lipids, vital vitamins, and potent bioactive elements. While the full spectrum of its biological mechanics continues to elude complete scientific explanation, its dramatic influence remains undeniably powerful. Humans have long harvested this pearlescent elixir as a wellness supplement, yet its subtle benefits for our species fade in comparison to the absolute cellular transformation it triggers within the nursery cells. The fact that nourishment alone can dictate whether a developing life becomes a transient, short-lived worker or a long-lived, magnificent matriarch stands as one of the natural world's most elegant displays of developmental plasticity. The awakening of a new queen within the hive is frequently accompanied by a silent, ancestral violence. Whenever the society requires a fresh matriarch, either because the old mother has passed away or because the colony is preparing to divide, the worker daughters construct several grand queen cells. These large, peanut-shaped chambers hang vertically from the edges of the honeycomb, where the chosen larvae are nourished exclusively on royal jelly. Yet, the law of the hive dictates that only one sovereign may reign at a time. The very first virgin queen to chew her way out of her cell faces an immediate, instinctive mandate. She methodically stalks the dark corridors, searching for her unborn sisters. Upon locating a sealed royal chamber, she tears a small opening through the wax and delivers a fatal sting to the developing rival within, eliminating the threat before it can ever awaken. Should two royal sisters happen to emerge into the world simultaneously, they lock in an immediate duel to the death, stinging each other repeatedly until only one remains standing as the undisputed heart of the colony. This fierce ritual prevents the internal chaos that would arise from multiple leaders claiming the same family, allowing the solitary survivor to soon embark on her sacred mating flight and guide her people for years to come. When a prosperous colony grows exceptionally strong and crowded, it ensures the continuation of its lineage through an epic migration known as swarming. The reigning mother, accompanied by roughly half of her worker daughters, takes to the open sky in a massive, swirling cloud, leaving the original fortress behind. They gather temporarily on a nearby tree branch or structural ledger, condensing into a magnificent living ball of thousands of gently humming bodies, while their scout sisters search the horizon for a permanent home. While the sight of this massive airborne cluster can appear deeply intimidating to an observer, swarming bees are actually at their most docile and gentle. Before abandoning their ancestral home, each worker gorges herself on honey reserves, leaving them physically heavy, satisfied, and far too lethargic to exhibit aggression. Lacking a fixed fortress to defend or a nursery of young to shield, they simply wait in peaceful unison. Scouts fan out in every direction, exploring hollow trees, weathered crevices, and empty hives, returning to the cluster to map out their discoveries through passionate dances. Once the collective reaches a beautiful consensus, the living ball dissolves back into the wind, journeying to their new sanctuary while a newborn queen claims the old hive below. The method by which a migrating swarm selects its permanent home stands as one of the most remarkable examples of pure, collective democracy found in the natural world. The elder, most experienced foraging scouts venture deep into the landscape to evaluate potential real estate. Upon discovering a promising hollow tree or rocky cavity, a scout conducts a meticulous inspection, measuring the internal volume, checking the orientation of the entrance, calculating its height from the ground, and testing its insulation against the elements. If the site meets her high standards, she returns to the resting swarm and performs an enthusiastic waggle dance to advertise the location. The absolute vigor and duration of her movement mirror the quality of the find. A superior sanctuary inspires a much more passionate performance. Other scouts monitor these dances, fly out to personally audit the recommended site, and if they agree with her assessment, join the choreography upon their return. Over the course of hours or days, various factions advocate for different locations across the meadow until a beautiful consensus emerges. When a critical threshold of matching dances is achieved, the collective decision is finalized, and the entire swarm takes flight under a shared wisdom where no single leader dominates. Not every traveler across the meadow is built to the same specifications, and one of the most defining variations among different bee families is the elegant length of their tongues. The honeybee possesses a moderately extended tongue, whereas the robust bumblebee boasts an impressively long reach, while certain independent solitary species operate with remarkably short, blunt instruments. This anatomical variation dictates exactly which floral treasures each species can access. Flowers with deep, elongated trumpet shapes, such as wild honeysuckle or salvia, can only be pollinated by those long-tongued specialists capable of reaching the deep reservoirs at the base. Conversely, short-tongued gatherers specialize in shallow, open blossoms like wild daisies or yarrow, where the sweet nectar sits fully exposed. This delicate diversity creates a natural tapestry of specialization, dividing the resources of the meadow to prevent intense competition. Certain clever bumblebees have even learned a mischievous shortcut. When faced with a blossom too deep for their reach, they chew a small hole directly through the base of the petal to steal the nectar from behind, bypassing the flower's reproductive mechanics entirely. This magnificent diversity of form highlights why a rich tapestry of different species is vital for the balance of our landscapes. While the geometric storytelling of the waggle dance is universally celebrated, these intelligent societies utilize other complex movements to manage their daily labor, such as the fascinating tremble dance. When field foragers return to the hive laden with massive quantities of fresh nectar, only to find that the internal processing workers are completely overwhelmed and too busy to unload them, they initiate a distinct, shaking choreography. The returning worker walks slowly across the vertical honeycomb, pausing frequently to vibrate her entire body in a sharp, trembling rhythm. This movement sends a real-time signal through the dark corridors that additional hands are urgently required to manage the incoming bounty. In immediate response to this trembling broadcast, younger nurse bees will dynamically switch their responsibilities, leaving behind their duties in the nursery to become nectar receivers. They intercept the incoming foragers, process the raw fluids with their own specialized enzymes, and deposit the golden liquid into the storage cells to begin the long alchemy of honey making. Through this fluid language of motion, the hive self-regulates its workforce in real time, matching its internal resources to the changing rhythms of the outside world without a single word of central command. Though many observers easily confuse bees with wasps, a close look at their defensive anatomy reveals a profound evolutionary divergence. The honeybee and many of her closest relatives possess a deeply barbed stinger designed as a single-use weapon of defense. When a worker bee drives her weapon into the elastic skin of a human or another mammal, the tiny backward-facing barbs catch securely in the tissue. As she attempts to break free and fly back to her family, the entire stinging apparatus, including the venom reservoir and vital internal systems, is pulled clean from her abdomen. Even after the bee has departed, the detached nerve cluster continues to automatically pump venom deep into the wound, maximizing the impact of her defense at the cost of her own life, as she will pass away within moments of the injury. This ultimate sacrifice serves a logical purpose for a large, social colony protecting immense stores of golden honey. Wasps, conversely, are armed with a perfectly smooth needle that slides effortlessly in and out of tissue without catching, allowing them to strike repeatedly without causing any harm to themselves. This anatomical contrast reflects their wildly different lifestyles. While the social bee sacrifices herself to shield her collective family, the solitary wasp preserves her weapon to hunt prey and sustain her independent journey. Though a sting is designed to deliver a sharp message of pain and inflammation, the venom coursing through a bee's stinger is actually a highly sophisticated cocktail of complex compounds that has long fascinated the world of medicine. This organic fluid is dense with melittin, a powerful peptide that triggers cellular responses, alongside a complex array of specialized enzymes, histamines, and protective proteins. For centuries, traditional cultures have explored these intense properties through apitherapy, utilizing controlled, therapeutic applications of bee products to address chronic ailments such as arthritis and multiple sclerosis. Modern laboratory studies continue to isolate these individual components, discovering that certain elements within the venom exhibit profound anti-inflammatory qualities and unique interactions with our neural pathways. While clinical research continues to evaluate these intricate compounds, the dual nature of this defensive fluid serves as a beautiful reminder of nature's endless complexity, where the very same substance designed to protect the dark sanctuary of the hive can whisper secrets of healing to those who take the time to listen. The intricate architecture of this defensive fluid is also capturing the attention of modern oncology, as researchers explore its potential anti-cancer properties alongside its powerful antimicrobial effects. In various traditional cultures, intentional bee stings have been applied for millennia to ease chronic inflammation and soothe localized pain. Whether or not these ancient practices survive the rigorous scrutiny of widespread modern medicine, it remains profoundly beautiful that a substance refined entirely for defense might also hold the key to therapeutic healing. The bee's sting, though naturally feared, contains within its microscopic geometry a symphony of molecules that could one day soothe human suffering. It serves as a gentle reminder that nature's chemical arsenal, developed across vast evolutionary spans, often safeguards profound medical secrets that we are only beginning to decipher. To glimpse a honeybee in flight is to encounter an entity that experiences the flow of time nearly 300 times faster than the human mind. Temporal perception is a fluid canvas across the animal kingdom, and bees inhabit a reality vastly accelerated compared to our own. While human eyes blend a sequence of roughly 60 individual frames per second into a seamless illusion of continuous motion, the visual processing system of a bee can easily distinguish up to 300 distinct images each second. Consequently, a motion that appears to us as a fluid, unbroken sweep, such as a waving hand or a bird cutting through the breeze, unfolds in the bee's mind as a sharp, deliberate sequence of isolated, crisp snapshots. This hyper-accelerated vision allows them to steer flawlessly through dense landscapes at incredible speeds, effortlessly dodging obstacles and tracking wild blossoms as they dance violently in the wind. It is the secret reason why a bee is so remarkably difficult to swat. long before a human hand can close the distance. Their mind has witnessed the approaching shadow with an abundance of time to map an elegant escape. When a worker zips past your ear in a sudden blur, remember that in her personal reality, you are the one moving in extreme slow motion, navigating a heavy world while she dances through hundreds of distinct moments packed into a single second. The exquisite relationship between bees and the flora stands as one of the most profound and deeply refined partnerships on Earth. Over the course of millions of years, flowering plants and these industrious insects have co-evolved in an intricate dance, with each species delicately sculpting the biology of the other. The botanical world offers sweet nectar and life-giving pollen as a welcoming gift, and in return, the bees provide the sacred service of generation. Innumerable floral traits exist solely because of the specific visual and sensory preferences of the bee. Brilliant petals dressed in deep blues, royal purples, and vibrant yellows are engineered to stand out intensely against the green canopy. The secret ultraviolet runway lines, entirely invisible to human eyes, illuminate the path toward the flower's heart like glowing landing lights. Blossoms have even sculpted their physical geometry to accommodate the bee's unique anatomy, offering wide landing platforms, curved nectar guides, and deep chambers that ensure vital dust rubs onto her velvet body in precisely the right places. Nearly 90% of all wild flowering plants depend entirely on this animal intercession, establishing the bee as the primary caretaker of the Earth's colored landscapes, a living dialogue written in the delicate languages of color, shape, and scent. While the majority of flowers engage in an open and generous exchange, certain botanical species have evolved highly manipulative, tactical strategies to secure their genetic future. Various tropical orchids temporarily imprison their visiting pollinators to guarantee that the transfer of pollen occurs with absolute certainty. Attracted by an intoxicating perfume or a striking visual mirage, the bee lands upon the petal, only to find her escape route instantly blocked or obscured by the flower's architecture. The blossom is ingeniously engineered, so that the only path to freedom requires the insect to squeeze her body through a remarkably narrow, specialized corridor, forcing her to press tightly against the plant's reproductive organs. As she struggles through this tight passage, sticky pollen packets adhere firmly to her velvet frame. When she finally breaks free and visits another bloom of the same family, she inadvertently deposits the treasure exactly where the plant requires it. The bee is never harmed during this brief capture, merely delayed and slightly agitated, ultimately claiming her sweet nectar prize before taking flight. These beautiful trap flowers serve as a quiet reminder that the bond between plants and pollinators is not always a simple, peaceful cooperation, but a complex arena of competition, manipulation, and evolutionary arms races playing out in the quiet corners of every meadow. Throughout the long tapestry of human history, these industrious insects have been revered, celebrated, and woven deeply into the sacred mythology of global civilizations. In the golden age of ancient Egypt, beekeeping was considered a sacred art, and the bee itself reigned as the royal symbol of Lower Egypt, with hieroglyphs documenting these practices stretching back over 4,000 years. Greek mythology elegantly intertwined these creatures with the goddess Artemis, honoring honey as the immortal food of the gods, while believing that human souls could take the form of bees and that poets received their finest inspirations from their gentle whispers. In the rich spiritual traditions of Hinduism, the bee is closely linked to the deities Vishnu, Krishna, and Kamadeva, who are frequently depicted with these winged companions or resting upon lotus blossoms. Celtic lore viewed them as mystical messengers traveling between our physical world and the unseen spirit realm, while early Christian traditions adopted the hive as a beautiful symbol of untiring cooperation, industriousness, and harmonious community. From the heraldic emblems of Napoleon Bonaparte to the verses of ancient literature, the bee has remained an enduring symbol of order, immortality, and sweetness, a sacred thread woven into the very fabric of human culture for millennia. The creation of honey is a magnificent, alchemical process conducted through the collective dedication of the hive. The journey begins when a seasoned forager sips raw nectar from deep within a flower, storing the fluid inside her honey stomach, a specialized internal chamber completely separate from her digestive systems. Upon her return to the fortress, she regurgitates the liquid, passing it directly to a waiting house bee who begins to chew the nectar, blending it thoroughly with specialized enzymes from her salivary glands. These organic catalysts break down complex plant sugars into simpler, highly stable compounds. The fluid is then deposited into an open wax cell, though it remains incredibly watery at this stage, containing nearly 70 to 80% water. Over the following days, the house bees repeatedly draw up the liquid, refine it further, and fan their wings with immense coordination over the open combs, generating a continuous draft that slowly evaporates the moisture. Once the water content drops to a perfect 18%, the transformation is absolute, and the watery nectar becomes thick, eternal honey. The workers then cap the cell with a pristine layer of fresh wax, sealing the treasure for the coming winter. A collective masterpiece that demands nectar from roughly 2 million flowers just to brew a single pound of golden sweetness. The flavor, color, and rich aroma of every spoonful of honey serve as an exquisite sensory map of the specific landscape where the bees traveled. Because the character of the honey is dictated entirely by the blossoms harvested, the varieties available are as diverse as the botanical world itself. Honey gathered from vast orange groves is remarkably pale and carries a bright, citrusy perfume. Buckwheat blossoms yield a deeply dark, robust molasses with an earthy weight, while wild clover offers a famously mild, golden sweetness, and lavender fields produce a complex, floral elixir. The bees do not deliberately choose to craft a specific variety. Instead, beekeepers thoughtfully place their hives near vast expanses of specific flora during their peak blooming seasons, allowing the insects to naturally focus their energy on the most abundant and rewarding source nearby. Certain varieties are so distinctly tied to their geography that they have achieved protected global status, such as the legendary Manuka honey of New Zealand, brewed only when the hives harvest from the wild Manuka bush. Exploring different honeys allows a dreamer to travel through distant gardens and rolling hills, tasting the unique essence of a specific soil and a particular afternoon, concentrated and preserved through the beautiful devotion of the hive. The flawless hexagonal grid of the honeycomb stands as one of the most mesmerizing achievements of natural engineering, where every single cell takes the form of a six-sided cylinder that interfaces with its neighbors with immaculate mathematical precision. Why has nature universally chosen the hexagon for this grand design? This specific geometry is one of the rare shapes capable of perfect tessellation, meaning the chambers can link together across a flat plane without leaving a single trace of empty, wasted space between their borders. Furthermore, it operates as a masterclass in structural efficiency, using the absolute minimum expenditure of costly beeswax to achieve the absolute maximum internal volume for storing sweet honey, while providing an incredibly durable matrix capable of supporting immense weight. For centuries, brilliant scientists and mathematicians have audited the architecture of the hive in deep fascination, marveling at how these tiny creatures achieve such perfection without the use of blueprints, measuring instruments, or an abstract understanding of geometry. They simply yield to a beautifully streamlined sequence of instinctive, localized behaviors. Each individual worker shapes her wax flakes in a highly specific manner, beautifully guided by the ambient temperature of her home, the natural dimensions of her own body, and tactile interactions with the sisters working immediately beside her. Fascinatingly, the insects do not initially sculpt these cells with sharp corners. Instead, they first weave the chambers as rough, soft circles. It is the steady, collective warmth of the dense hive combined with the natural surface tension of the pliable, warmed wax that coaxes these circular walls to automatically pull into flawless hexagons as the material cools and crystallizes. Here, the laws of physics and the delicate blueprints of biology dissolve into one another, turning the simple instincts of a tiny insect into an architectural masterpiece that modern human engineers and builders still study for creative inspiration. It is a stunning monument to natural creation, constructed by thousands of miniature souls working in absolute unison without a central master planner. Within the social tapestry of the hive, identity is remarkably fluid, with distinct biological castes: the reproductive queen, the sterile worker daughters, and the independent male drones, fully determined by the specific nourishment and care an infant receives during her developmental infancy. What makes this social division truly extraordinary is the fact that the queen and her worker sisters emerge from identical genetic blueprints. Any female egg placed within the comb possesses the potential to become either a short-lived laborer or a long-lived sovereign. The absolute turning point rests entirely within her cradle diet. While every female larva is nourished on a rich concentrate of royal jelly for her first few days of life, the worker larvae are quickly transitioned to a rustic porridge of honey and pollen known as bee bread. The chosen queen larvae, conversely, are fed royal jelly exclusively and abundantly throughout their entire development. This simple divergence in nutrition acts as a master key, activating different genetic pathways that dramatically reshape her adult form. The resulting queen grows vastly larger, developing an elongated abdomen, specialized mouth parts, and a fully functional reproductive system, while her worker sisters remain smaller, equipped with specialized pollen baskets and wax glands that their mother lacks. This profound phenomenon, known to science as phenotypic plasticity, ensures that the society can dynamically tailor its population to match its immediate needs. If a colony unexpectedly loses its matriarch, the workers can swiftly convert an ordinary worker larva into a royal queen simply by altering her menu. Beyond the fluid storytelling of the geometric waggle dance, these intelligent societies communicate through a rich web of tactile signals, using the powerful authority of the shaking signal to mobilize help whenever the fortress faces immediate danger. When a sentinel bee registers a threat to her home, such as an approaching predator or a hostile intruder breaching the threshold, she will aggressively seek out a sister, grip her firmly with her legs, and vibrate her own body with immense intensity for a brief second or two. This vigorous, physical shaking serves as an urgent wake-up call, instantly recruiting the recipient to abandon her current tasks and join the defense of the hive. The shaken worker immediately exhibits a sharp rise in alertness and defensive aggression, standing fully prepared to deploy her stinger if the intruder draws near. This urgent signal can cascade through the crowded corridors like a sudden wave, as newly awakened defenders immediately begin shaking others, rapidly assembling a formidable defense force within moments. The dark interior of the hive is never truly silent. It is a living network constantly humming with subtle touches, intense vibrations, chemical whispers, and soft acoustic codes that we are only beginning to translate. This body-to-body dialogue creates a hyper-responsive community where crucial information flows instantly across thousands of individuals. While honeybees and robust bumblebees dominate the landscapes of temperate climates, the tropical and subtropical regions of our planet are home to an entirely different, hidden dynasty of social insects known as stingless bees. Belonging to the ancient tribe Meliponini, this diverse family includes over 500 distinct species that, as their name beautifully suggests, lack a functional stinger. To shield their societies from harm, these resourceful creatures have traded the needle for a different defensive strategy, fiercely biting intruders with their specialized, powerful mandibles. They are highly social beings, organizing elaborate colonies that can swell into the thousands, where they craft magnificent subterranean or arboreal fortresses using cerumen, a unique, fragrant blend of pure wax and wild botanical resins. The golden liquid they harvest is vastly different from traditional honey. It remains much more fluid and light, offering a complex sensory profile that ranges from intense sweetness to sharp, citrusy sour notes. For thousands of years, indigenous cultures across Central and South America, Asia, Africa, and Australia have tenderly managed these stingless societies, harvesting their rare honey for both sacred nourishment and traditional medicine. Valued as a luxury item due to its low yield and medicinal virtues, this unique elixir represents a brilliant variation in the ancient world of bees, reminding us that nature can adapt its social structures to harmonize with every climate imaginable. The sensory reality of the bee extends far beyond the realms of sight, scent, and taste, reaching into a hidden dimension where flowers broadcast their presence through delicate electrical signatures. Blossoms naturally carry a subtle negative electric charge, while a bee soaring through the sky accumulates a positive static charge due to the friction of the wind against her velvet body hairs. As the positively charged traveler draws near the negatively charged petal, the difference between them births a faint, invisible electric field that the bee can perceive through specialized hairs on her head. Brilliant behavioral studies have demonstrated that bees actively use this electrical sense to read the real-time history of the meadow. The moment a gatherer lands upon a flower, her touch temporarily alters its negative charge. A subsequent explorer arriving shortly after can instantly sense this electrical distortion, allowing her to gracefully skip the blossom without wasting precious energy, knowing its nectar reserves have likely just been depleted. This invisible sensory channel reveals that every flower is far more than a visual target. It is a multi-sensory beacon broadcasting across frequencies entirely locked away from human experience, inviting these winged caretakers to navigate a landscape where even the air whispers the sweet secrets of abundance or emptiness. Deeply locked within a drop of ancient, golden tree resin from Myanmar lies the oldest known bee fossil on Earth, offering a magnificent window into a prehistoric world that thrived roughly 100 million years ago. Discovered within amber dating back to the early Cretaceous period, this microscopic pioneer, named Melitophex burmensis, already featured the hallmark traits of modern gatherers, including the specialized, feathery body hairs designed to catch and carry loose pollen grains. The discovery of this tiny voyager fundamentally reshaped our understanding of deep time. Before its unearthing, scientific consensus estimated that bees had emerged much later, around 70 million years ago. This amber treasure reveals that their lineage is infinitely more ancient, branching away from predatory, wasp-like ancestors precisely as the world's very first flowering plants began to diversify across the landscape. This means that bees and flowers have walked a beautifully intertwined path of coevolution across a vast canvas of time, elegantly sculpting one another's biology through a botanical and zoological partnership that has outlasted shifting climates, dramatic continental drifts, and massive planetary extinctions. When you watch a honeybee drift through your garden today, you are gazing upon an immaculate living design that has outlived the dinosaurs and quietly witnessed the entire rise of mammals, birds, and humanity. When most minds conjure the image of a bee, they instinctively picture grand social cities, crowded honeycombs, and a royal queen ruling over thousands of devoted daughters. Yet, in a beautiful contrast of nature, the vast majority of bee species on our planet choose to live entirely alone. These independent spirits do not belong to a colony, they build no shared fortresses, and they brew no honey reserves. Instead, a single solitary female independently shoulders every single responsibility required to continue her lineage. She excavates her own private nest, gathers her own provisions, deposits her eggs in silent isolation, and departs without ever witnessing her offspring awaken. Each female is an absolute miracle of self-sufficiency, executing every vital task that would normally be divided among thousands of specialized workers in a social hive. This independent sisterhood includes the gentle mason bees, the artistic leaf cutters, the subterranean mining bees, and countless others who seek shelter in the soil, hollow twigs, or weathered timber. Lacking a grand shared treasure to protect, they are completely non-aggressive and rarely deploy a sting. On a per-bee basis, these independent workers are frequently far more efficient pollinators than their social relatives, with certain wild orchards relying entirely on their silent, dedicated labor. They remind us that in the grand design of evolution, beautiful cooperation is not the only path to survival. Sometimes the quiet, solitary journey is just as perfect. This independent path carries its own profound, quiet rewards, for these winged wanderers are not born with an innate knowledge of the meadow's treasures. Instead, they map their world entirely through deep, learned experience. As a young bee first ventures into the morning air, she tests a diverse variety of blossoms through a process of gentle trial and error. Whenever a particular flower yields a generous reward of sweet nectar or golden pollen, her tiny mind firmly imprints its vibrant color, its distinct perfume, its structural shape, and even the precise hour of the day when its bounty was most abundant. Certain flora are remarkably precise with their offerings, opening their petals or secreting their sugars only during highly specific windows of time, and the bees masterfully decipher these daily cycles to fine-tune their foraging calendars. Over time, they develop a fascinating behavioral trait known to science as flower constancy, a deep-seated loyalty that drives an individual to focus exclusively on a single plant species during a single foraging voyage. This focused devotion creates a beautiful harmony between traveler and bloom. The bee achieves a swift, effortless efficiency in manipulating that specific floral architecture, while the plant receives the exact, matching pollen dust required to ensure its genetic continuation. Far from being simple, mindless biological machines, these creatures reveal an incredible cognitive flexibility, showing us that every single bee operates as a true individual, beautifully shaped by her own unique memories, personal preferences, and learned histories across the landscape. It remains a surprising revelation for many modern dreamers to discover that the familiar, iconic honeybee is not actually a native citizen of the American continents. The celebrated species Apis mellifera trace their ancestral roots entirely back to the ancient ecosystems of Europe, Africa, and Asia, making their first transatlantic voyage alongside European colonists in the early decades of the 1600s. Long before these imported hives ever hummed in the western valleys, the Americas were already home to thousands of deeply specialized native bee species, a rich tapestry dominated by independent solitary diggers, small families of robust bumblebees, and quiet societies of tropical stingless bees. For countless millennia, these native gatherers were, and still remain, the foundational caretakers responsible for the existence of the continent's wild flora. While the introduced honeybee has thrived spectacularly across these new landscapes, her immense numbers can occasionally create a silent friction, competing intensely with local, native species for the limited nectar and pollen reserves of the fields. In recent seasons, a quiet, global awakening has begun to emphasize the vital protection of these forgotten native pollinators. By inviting native wild flora back into our spaces, safeguarding wild nesting grounds, and choosing to step away from chemical interventions, we can gently restore the balance for these ancient residents who have quietly tended the soil since the dawn of time. Beyond the sweet alchemy of the hive, these tiny travelers operate as the vital architects of global biodiversity, holding together the very fabric of our wild ecosystems. It is calculated that an astonishing 75 to 95% of all flowering plants across the planet rely entirely on the intercession of animal pollinators, with bees standing as the undisputed sovereigns of this cooperative network. By facilitating the generation of wild blossoms, they ensure that these plants can scatter their seeds and maintain their populations across the earth. These botanical communities, in turn, provide the essential nourishment, shelter, and nesting sanctuaries that sustain an infinite array of other living beings, from microscopic insects and nesting birds to the grandest forest mammals. Should their gentle hum ever fade into absolute silence, the plant kingdom would face a catastrophic decline, triggering a devastating domino effect throughout the entire web of life. A scarcity of green flora means an immediate loss of food for gentle herbivores, fewer wild seeds for foraging birds, and the slow collapse of natural shelter. By holding up the plant world, the bee protects the natural resilience of the entire planet, ensuring that our ecosystems possess the rich diversity needed to withstand severe droughts, changing climates, and passing diseases. A profound ecological weight carried effortlessly by a creature no larger than a summer raindrop. In recent decades, however, these ancient societies have encountered unprecedented, heavy challenges across the globe, as honeybee colonies experience sudden, mysterious collapses and countless wild, solitary lineages quietly vanish from our meadows. The forces driving this decline are deeply intertwined. Chief among them is our widespread reliance on modern chemical pesticides, particularly neonicotinoids, which act as a powerful neurotoxin to these delicate insects, even in the most minuscule amounts. These invisible agents disrupt their navigation systems, dull their foraging sharpness, cripple their natural immune defenses, and frequently lead to a quiet, lonely end far from home. Simultaneously, the relentless transformation of natural landscapes into dense urban centers or vast agricultural monocultures strips them of the diverse floral banquets and varied nesting habitats they require to survive. This loss of environmental harmony is further strained by shifting global climates, which can alter the delicate timing of spring blooms and distort the ancestral synchronization between plant and pollinator. Weakened by a lack of diverse food and touched by chemical exposure, they become increasingly vulnerable to natural parasites, such as the destructive varroa mite. The silent plight of the bee stands as a stark, whispering mirror reflecting the broader health of our shared planet, calling for a thoughtful return to gentler farming, mindful design, and a deep commitment to creating spaces where wildlife can flourish. Fortunately, one of the most immediate and beautiful ways a person can offer sanctuary to these weary workers is through the simple, intentional act of planting flowers. Cultivating native wild flora is exceptionally impactful, as these specific plants have spent millions of years co-evolving alongside local bee species, tailoring their shapes, vibrant colors, and sweet nectar chemistry to perfectly match the life cycles and physical needs of local pollinators. By introducing a rich tapestry of native blossoms that open sequentially from the crisp mornings of early spring through the golden twilights of late autumn, you can establish a continuous, life-giving banquet for the neighborhood hives. Even the smallest gesture, a container garden resting on a quiet balcony, a pocket of wildflowers woven into a suburban yard, or a simple patch of lawn left to grow wild, can function as a vital oasis. Stepping completely away from chemical insecticides ensures that these blossoms remain a true haven of health. Furthermore, leaving a few patches of bare, sunny soil undisturbed provides a welcoming floor for ground nesting mothers, while preserving dried plant stems and weathered timber offers a perfect nursery for cavity-dwelling architects. This acts as a gentle embrace of our deep connection to the earth, allowing us to witness the quiet magic of pollination firsthand and offering a space where these tiny entities are truly valued. For those independent solitary species seeking a safe haven to construct their nurseries, a thoughtfully placed bee hotel offers a magnificent, artificial sanctuary. Many of these independent mothers are extraordinarily meticulous when selecting a home for their future young, and these simple wooden structures provide a collection of ideal cavity tubes. usually crafted from solid blocks of untreated timber drilled with holes of varying diameters, or assembled from tightly bound bundles of hollow bamboo and natural reeds. These structures mimic the perfect geometry of the wild. Because different species favor specific spatial dimensions, the boreholes generally vary from 2 to 10 millimeters in diameter, drilled to a smooth finish and left securely closed at the deepest end to create a comforting, defensive apartment. Positioning this rustic shelter in a bright, sun-kissed spot facing south or southeast, safely sheltered from passing rains, creates an incredibly attractive real estate destination. Throughout the warm months of spring and summer, a quiet observer can watch independent mothers slide into the tunnels, laden with fresh pollen cakes, before masterfully sealing the doorways with smooth mud or neatly clipped leaf discs. Safe within these dark, insulated chambers, the larvae mature in complete tranquility through the long winter months, waiting for the shifting seasons to call them forth. A deeply satisfying display of natural life unfolding right before our eyes. Though the interior of the hive may appear silent from afar, it is actually a rich, symphonic landscape filled with a diverse vocabulary of acoustic frequencies and deep muscle vibrations. Bees utilize their immense thoracic flight muscles to generate an array of distinct hums and signals, transforming their physical bodies into powerful acoustic instruments. While the familiar, steady buzz of a foraging worker is born from the rapid velocity of her beating wings, they possess the unique ability to vibrate these identical muscle groups without ever moving their wings, producing subtle, low-frequency tones dedicated purely to communication. One of the most hauntingly beautiful sounds within this hidden world is the high-pitched piping of a newborn virgin queen, a sharp, resonant tone produced as she presses her chest firmly against the vertical wax combs, sending a clear, acoustic announcement vibrating through the entire architecture of the hive. The worker daughters similarly deploy brief, vibrational pulses known as stop signals, which act as an authoritative tap on the shoulder to instantly halt a sister's dance whenever danger nears. Certain heavy-bodied bumblebees harness these intense muscle vibrations for the specialized art of buzz pollination, shaking reluctant petals until they release their hidden treasures. This body-to-body acoustic web ensures that information travels instantly across thousands of separate minds, revealing a sophisticated network of living energy where every touch, every frequency, and every quiet vibration whispers a shared story of survival. This intense, acoustic shaking serves as a powerful, low-frequency tremor engineered precisely to jar stubborn grains of pollen completely loose from a flower's deepest, hidden pockets. Brilliant researchers have meticulously recorded and analyzed these subterranean vibrations, discovering that they carry a surprisingly rich and detailed vocabulary of biological information. The exact frequency, duration, and rhythm of these shaking pulses translate directly into a bee's internal emotional state, her immediate intentions, or convey highly specific messages across the dark hallways. The interior of the hive operates as a magnificent, continuous symphony of these subtle acoustic currents, a complex tapestry of hums and physical vibrations that the citizens deploy to flawlessly organize, coordinate, and guide their intricate society. To ensure that these vital sensory arrays remain entirely unclouded, the insect dedicates a significant portion of her brief life to a meticulous, deeply ritualistic process of self-care. A bee's elegant antennae, her complex compound eyes, and the delicate hairs covering her body function as her primary interfaces with the world, making absolute cleanliness a matter of immediate survival. Moving with deliberate, almost meditative care, she utilizes specialized combs and stiff brushes built directly into her legs to systematically scrape away accumulated pollen dust and environmental debris. Her front legs feature a remarkably precise, crescent-shaped notch lined with stiff hairs that serves as a custom-tailored antenna cleaner. She masterfully draws each stalk through this organic groove, wiping the sensor completely clean. Simultaneously, her middle and hind limbs sweep across her thorax, abdomen, and wings, gathering loose floral dust, moistening it with a drop of nectar, and packing it securely into the golden baskets on her thighs. This fastidious grooming keeps her navigation instruments fully functional, ensures her aerodynamic efficiency in flight, and serves as a vital method for distributing her personal chemical signatures across her entire form. Far from being an act of simple vanity, this private routine is a strict evolutionary necessity, for an explorer with blinded eyes or clogged antennae cannot forage effectively, turning absolute cleanliness into the ultimate dividing line between life and death. When a gentle beekeeper approaches the hive, they frequently introduce a soft cloud of cool smoke to soothe the colony before opening the gates, a timeless practice rooted deeply in the ancient, instinctual survival mechanics of the insect. The moment the bees register the scent of smoke, their primal instincts immediately warn them of a looming forest fire, causing the society to instantly shift its priorities toward preservation. Turning away from defense, the workers rush to the honeycombs and begin aggressively gorging themselves on their golden food reserves, heavily filling their honey stomachs so they will possess the energy needed to abandon the fortress and swarm to a new home if the flames draw near. A bee weighed down by an immense meal of honey is naturally disinclined to exhibit aggression. Her physical abdomen becomes so full and tightly stretched that it becomes anatomically difficult for her to curve her body and deploy her stinger. Furthermore, the aromatic smoke completely blankets the volatile alarm pheromones released by the sentinel guards at the threshold, blocking the chemical broadcast that would normally summon an escalating army of defenders. This gentle intervention allows the beekeeper to carefully lift the frames and tend to the colony's health with minimal disruption, as the insects peacefully return to their daily routines the moment the clean air returns. This astonishing olfactory sharpness has even led to highly sophisticated, unexpected partnerships with modern science, where honeybees have been successfully trained to detect hidden landmines and volatile explosives with breathtaking accuracy. Utilizing their advanced learning capabilities, researchers have conditioned these insects to link the microscopic scent of explosive chemical compounds, such as TNT, with a rewarding sip of pure sugar water. Once this connection is firmly imprinted, the bees will automatically extend their long proboscis in anticipation the exact moment they encounter the target fragrance, even in vanishingly small molecular concentrations. In controlled field trials, these trained gatherers have been released across landscape zones suspected of harboring forgotten landmines, allowing observers to map contaminated sectors simply by tracking where the low-flying swarms exhibit their unmistakable conditioned response. Their olfactory systems naturally rival or exceed the precision of highly trained canines, yet they can be conditioned far more quickly and economically. This unique application illustrates that the humblebee carries within her tiny, fingernail-sized frame a sensory marvel capable of parsing a landscape of fragrances at concentrations completely invisible to human technology. Yet, despite their evolutionary brilliance, honeybee societies across the globe are currently locked in a desperate biological battle against a devastating, microscopic enemy known as the Varroa destructor mite. These small, reddish-brown parasites, roughly the size of a pinhead, function as a catastrophic threat, feeding aggressively on the vital fat bodies and internal fluids of both developing larvae and adult bees. A pregnant female might stealthily slip into a nursery cell immediately before the worker daughters seal it with wax, laying her own eggs inside the cradle, so her emerging offspring can feast upon the defenseless, growing bee. When the compromised adult finally emerges into the hive, she crawls out with deeply deformed wings, a stunted abdomen, and a severely crippled immune system. Beyond this direct physical trauma, the mites operate as highly efficient vectors for lethal viral epidemics that can swiftly sweep through the dark corridors, collapsing entire colonies over the course of a single winter if left untreated. Originally, these parasites existed in a stable balance with the Asian honeybee, Apis cerana, which possesses ancestral grooming behaviors capable of actively removing the pests. However, when the mite shifted to the western honeybee, Apis mellifera, it encountered a vulnerable population completely lacking these defensive traits. Managing this relentless threat remains one of the greatest challenges for modern beekeepers, requiring a delicate balance of organic acids, targeted mite treatments, and long-term breeding initiatives focused on reinforcing the bee's natural resistance. The immaculate solutions these insects have developed over millions of years have transformed them into profound teachers for human engineering, serving as a vibrant wellspring of innovation within the realm of biomimicry. The flawless geometry of the honeycomb has heavily inspired the creation of ultra-lightweight, exceptionally strong structural panels utilized across modern aerospace, automotive design, and satellite architecture, where maximizing strength while minimizing weight is paramount. Similarly, the mathematical precision of the waggle dance has been decoded by computer scientists to build advanced algorithms for swarm robotics, allowing networks of autonomous machines to communicate and coordinate complex tasks without requiring a single, centralized command center. The fluid, democratic choices made by a migrating swarm have offered profound insights into optimization problems and artificial intelligence, while their exquisite mastery of flight and wind navigation continuously reshapes drone development. Even the cooperative methods they deploy to shiver and fan the hive's climate have influenced the design of eco-friendly building ventilation systems. By looking across the boundary of species to study how these tiny architects build, navigate, and organize, humanity is learning to craft more elegant technologies, discovering that the highest expressions of sophistication are often found in the quietest corners of the natural world. Astonishingly, the gift of passing down accumulated wisdom across generations is not a unique hallmark of human civilization. Bees actively demonstrate a profound form of social learning and cultural transmission. When an experienced explorer masters a complex route to a hidden food source or deciphers a challenging mechanical technique to open a difficult blossom, she does not keep this knowledge locked away. She demonstrates the art to her sisters. Within the laboratory, scientists have watched in awe as observer bees carefully monitor a talented companion, solving an intricate puzzle for a sugar reward, before flawlessly mimicking the technique themselves through pure observational learning. This fluid sharing of information allows a colony to adapt to sudden environmental shifts with a speed that completely bypasses the slow gears of genetic evolution. Over time, separate hives can develop entirely unique traditions, behavioral personalities, and specific foraging preferences based purely on their collective, learned histories rather than inherited traits. The dark sanctuary of the hive transforms into far more than a simple genetic lineage. It operates as a true living community possessing its own accumulated wisdom, tenderly passed down from the elder foragers to the younger daughters through the shared language of movement and touch. The flawless unity and beautiful coordination defining this complex society do not flow from a matriarch who dictates vocal commands, but through an intricate, invisible web of pure chemistry orchestrated by the queen. She continuously generates a highly specialized, complex signature blend of pheromones, known to science as queen mandibular pheromone, which functions as the chemical glue holding the entire colony together. This most crucial chemical signature, the queen mandibular pheromone, is elegantly secreted from specialized glands situated right near her mandibles. As the worker daughters constantly groom, lick, and attend to their sovereign, their bodies inevitably absorb these potent molecules, which they then systematically broadcast throughout the dense, dark corridors of the entire colony through fluid physical contact and trophallaxis, the intimate mouth-to-mouth sharing of food. The cascading effects of this chemical essence are nothing short of profound. It actively suppresses the development of ovaries in the worker sisters, ensuring they remain dedicated, sterile caretakers, while simultaneously freezing their impulse to raise competing royal cells. This constant chemical wash promotes an absolute sense of peace, cohesion, and effortless cooperation within the society. When a queen reigns in vibrant health, radiating a strong and unclouded chemical presence, the entire collective operates in flawless, rhythmic harmony. However, should she grow old, contract a disease, or suddenly vanish from the nest, the internal levels of her pheromone plummet sharply, a shift that the workers perceive within a mere matter of hours. Recognizing the vacuum, they immediately pivot their labor to construct grand, peanut-shaped emergency queen cells to nurture a replacement. The queen's scent is the invisible, sacred glue holding the family together, a constant, aromatic reassurance permeating every wax wall and every velvet wing, uniting thousands of separate lives into a single, breathing family with one shared purpose: to preserve the sanctuary of their crowded city against the ever-present threat of invisible pathogens and devastating parasites. The worker daughters have evolved a remarkably disciplined suite of collective hygienic behaviors. Dedicated sanitization teams systematically inspect the nursery comb, meticulously auditing the sealed cells to check the developing larvae and pupae for any hidden signs of infection or parasitic intrusion. The moment they detect a failing larva, a dead pupa, or the stealthy presence of a varroa destructor mite, they immediately uncap the wax cell, drag the contaminated resident out of its cradle, and carry it far away from the hive entrance to be discarded in the wind. This swift, ruthless intervention effectively cuts off the path of transmission before an epidemic can take root. Certain resilient strains of bees possess an exceptionally heightened genetic drive for this hygiene, cleansing their combs with a speed that drastically minimizes the need for external intervention. Furthermore, the insects line the raw wooden hallways and ceiling gaps of their fortress with propolis, a sticky, resinous armor gathered from wild tree buds that acts as a powerful natural antibiotic and antiviral shield. By combining this chemical defense with coordinated wing fanning to pull moisture out of the air and prevent the growth of mold, the colony maintains a pristine, self-sanitizing environment, demonstrating how a dense society of thousands can flourish in incredibly close quarters through pure, unyielding vigilance. When a sudden threat breaches the threshold of the fortress, the defenders rapidly mobilize their sisters through an immediate, chemical alarm system that carries a surprising, familiar aroma. The moment a guard bee drives her barbed stinger into an intruder, the tearing of her tissue releases a volatile alarm pheromone dominated by isoamyl acetate, a compound that smells distinctly and faintly of ripe bananas. This airborne chemical beacon acts as an instant catalyst, cutting through the dark hallways to alert nearby workers to immediate danger and recruiting them to the front lines. The scent functions as an organic target marker, effectively painting the intruder with an invisible chemical bullseye that instructs arriving defenders precisely where to focus their counterattacks. Because of this chain reaction, a single minor disturbance near an active hive can escalate with breathtaking velocity as the banana-scented mist spreads, drawing hundreds or thousands of angry sisters into the fray. Guard bees stationed at the entrance remain hypersensitive to these subtle movements, standing fully prepared to launch the first chemical broadcast at the slightest hint of trouble. This lingering scent is the reason why a wise beekeeper will step away and allow the wind to fully cleanse the air before attempting to reopen a disturbed hive, relying on cool smoke to gently mask the signal and break the ancient, chemical chain of defense. Before a young worker ever commits her life to the perilous and exhausting work of gathering food in the wider world, she must first undergo a beautiful, methodical rite of passage known as an orientation flight. Stepping out of the familiar darkness of the hive for the first time, she does not simply fly off into the horizon. Instead, she turns to face the threshold of her home and hovers gently in the bright air. Moving in gradually widening circles and sweeping arcs, she keeps her eyes fixed squarely on the architecture of the nest, deeply memorizing its unique visual context. Her mind takes a precise snapshot of prominent landmarks, the distinct shape of the entrance, the surrounding garden vegetation, the silhouettes of nearby trees, fences, or buildings, weaving them into an intricate mental map. Simultaneously, she calibrates her internal compass by logging the position of the sun and the orientation of the Earth's magnetic field. These deliberate, hovering ballets can last for several minutes, representing her first careful studies of the vast skies beyond. Once these geographical anchors are safely locked within her memory, she can venture miles away into unfamiliar meadows, completely confident that she can trace her path back to the sanctuary. This robust navigation system allows her to successfully make the profound transition from the safe, dark world of her youth to the vast, open canopy of the wild earth. As fundamentally ectothermic creatures, these insects cannot internally regulate their personal body temperatures while at rest, relying instead on the radiant warmth of the external world to kindle their biological systems. On crisp, early mornings, a bee remains completely sluggish and immobile, her muscles locked in a cold torpor until her thoracic flight engines can achieve a vital operating temperature of approximately 30 degrees Celsius. To spark this internal fire without taking flight, she uncouples her wings and rhythmically vibrates her powerful flight muscles at a microscopic scale, utilizing the friction of thermogenesis to generate pure, localized body heat. On cool spring mornings, you can frequently discover these solitary travelers basking lazily on sun-drenched leaves or petals, absorbing the golden light like tiny solar vessels before they can summon the strength to take to the air. Once aloft, the sheer, immense energy expended during flight naturally maintains their internal warmth. Yet, if a sudden storm rolls in or the afternoon temperature plunges unexpectedly, a foraging bee can easily become stranded far from home, growing too chilled to fly and risking a lonely end in the grass. This absolute dependence on external heat dictates their entire daily calendar, drawing them forth in grand numbers only on warm, sunlit afternoons when the meadow is most welcoming. The relentless turning of the seasons brings about a fascinating physiological transformation within the hive, birthing a specialized generation of long-lived winter bees that contrast sharply with their short-lived summer sisters. While a typical summer worker wears her body out within 5 to 6 brief weeks of intense foraging, the daughters who emerge in the fading twilight of late autumn are engineered with an entirely different biological blueprint, allowing them to endure for 5 to 6 months through the deep frost of winter. These winter survivors possess significantly larger bodies, denser fat reserves, and much higher concentrations of vital storage proteins locked within their tissues. They never leave the fortress to forage in the frozen fields. Instead, they remain nestled deep within the dark hallways, forming a dense, living furnace around their queen and the remaining nursery cells. By continuously shivering their immense flight muscles in absolute unison, they generate a collective warmth that holds the core temperature stable even as the external world drops far below freezing, slowly rotating from the chilly outer perimeter to the glowing center, so every sister survives. Subsided entirely on stored honey reserves and operating with a remarkably frugal, slowed metabolism, this dedicated guard carries the lineage across the darkest months, gradually resuming their flights in the spring to rear the first generation of short-lived summer workers before peacefully surrendering their places to the new dawn. The mouthparts of a bee function as a true structural marvel, custom-tailored by evolution to operate as a versatile, living Swiss Army knife capable of construction, intense defense, and delicate nourishment. For structural tasks, she is armed with a pair of stout mandibles, powerful, jaw-like blades that she expertly uses to chew through tough hive debris, delicately manipulate and sculpt pliable flakes of fresh wax, groom her sensitive limbs, and grip rivals in battle. For feeding, however, her anatomy shifts into an elegant, straw-like tube known as the proboscis, which can be extended deep into the hearts of blossoms or retracted neatly beneath her head when she takes flight. This ingenious apparatus is formed by specialized maxillae that zip together to create a smooth channel, allowing her to lap up the sweet nectar from narrow floral deeps that remain completely inaccessible to other insects. Different species boast wildly varying lengths of this organic straw, matching the specific architecture of the flowers they have chosen to tend. Furthermore, they use these mouthparts to blend collected floral dust with nectar and saliva, sculpting the sticky pollen balls they transport on their hind limbs. They gather water by gently lapping it from damp banks and regularly nourish one another through trophallaxis, turning the simple act of a mouth-to-mouth embrace into the very network that distributes food, chemical directives, and family identity across thousands of living souls. This focused devotion creates a beautiful harmony between traveler and bloom. The bee achieves a swift, effortless efficiency in manipulating that specific floral architecture, while the plant receives the exact, matching pollen dust required to ensure its genetic continuation. Rather than drifting aimlessly across the meadow, the individual traveler exhibits a strict behavioral trait known as flower constancy, a deep-seated loyalty that drives her to focus exclusively on a single plant species during a single foraging voyage. If her morning begins among the pale chalices of wild clover, she will consistently seek out clover, gracefully soaring past the vibrant invitations of neighboring blossoms. For the bee, this temporary specialization is a triumph of economy. She masterfully trains her mind and limbs to navigate the distinct petals, memorizing exactly where the sweetest nectar hides and how to unlock the flower's gates with breathtaking speed. For the botanical world, this fidelity is a vital necessity, transforming each foraging bee into a dedicated, reliable courier. The pollen brushed onto her velvet frame is safely delivered to a matching blossom of the same lineage, rather than being wasted upon a completely different species where it would lie barren. This profound mutualism has quietly guided the coevolution of plants and pollinators over immense spans of deep time. Flowers have sculpted their rewards to encourage this strict fidelity, while bees have refined their learning capacities to temporarily specialize on whichever blossom offers the greatest bounty. Far more than a simple structural mortar used to plug drafts, the sticky substance, known as propolis, serves as a powerful, living shield of social immunity crafted to safeguard the collective health of the entire fortress. Studies have demonstrated that this aromatic, resinous blend possesses profound antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral properties, capable of actively inhibiting or destroying a vast spectrum of microscopic pathogens. The worker daughters meticulously gather these raw resins from the weeping buds of wild trees, carrying the tacky material home to line the interior walls and ceiling gaps of their dark city, establishing what modern science calls a defensive propolis envelope. This organic varnish functions as a continuous antiseptic barrier, dramatically lowering the overall germ load within the crowded corridors. Whenever an oversized intruder, such as a wandering field mouse or a large beetle, breaches the threshold and perishes inside, the bees face a daunting dilemma, as the heavy corpse is far too massive for them to drag out of the hive. To prevent a catastrophic outbreak of decay, the sanitization teams utilize their resinous blend to completely encase the body, flawlessly mummifying the intruder in a sterile, airtight sarcophagus that halts decomposition and locks away harmful bacteria forever. This remarkable instinct, marveled at by ancient naturalists, illustrates that propolis use is a highly evolved form of collective preventative medicine, a brilliant chemical defense co-opted from the plant kingdom to ensure the survival of the state. The industrious bee has caught the human imagination for as long as we have recorded our stories, buzzing gracefully through the sacred folklore, art, and literature of global civilizations for millennia. In the shadow of the pyramids, the ancient Egyptians revered the bee as a living symbol of the human soul and the mystery of resurrection, carefully documenting their keeping practices in limestone hieroglyphs. The classical myths of Greece intertwined these creatures with the huntress goddess Artemis, viewing them as the physical forms of sacred priestesses, while the philosopher Plato mused that the souls of quiet, righteous men would naturally reincarnate as these disciplined insects. Celtic lore tenderly cast them as mystical messengers traveling between our physical world and the unseen spirit realm, carrying whispers across the veil, while the verses of both the Bible and the Quran celebrate their works as divine inspirations of wisdom and overflowing abundance. Within the world of heraldry, their silhouette became the ultimate emblem of untiring industry and harmonious cooperation, eventually being claimed by Napoleon Bonaparte as his personal imperial crest to anchor his reign to the oldest, immortal dynasties of France. From the grand poetry of Virgil and the dramatic stages of Shakespeare to the haunting, modern stanzas of Emily Dickinson and Sylvia Plath, the bee remains a universal, timeless archetype, a tiny mirror reflecting human diligence, the sweetness of life, and the deepest mysteries of the natural world. Operating with an intellect that continuously challenges our assumptions about the limitations of a miniature brain, these social insects possess the astonishing ability to count and conceptually grasp the abstract notion of zero. In brilliant behavioral experiments, researchers successfully trained honeybees to navigate complex visual choices by rewarding them only when they selected an image containing the fewest geometric shapes. Demonstrating remarkable numerical acuity, the bees consistently distinguished between displays containing 1, 2, 3, or 4 objects with a high degree of accuracy. The true marvel, however, unfolded when the insects were presented with a choice between a card displaying a single shape and an entirely blank display representing 0. Against all expectations, the bees correctly identified the empty display as representing a value smaller than 1, proving that they can perceive the absence of quantity as a distinct numerical concept, a sophisticated cognitive milestone that human children typically do not fully master until around 4 years of age. This profound gift places the humblebee within an elite, exclusive club of advanced minds capable of decoding 0, alongside primates, parrots, and crows. While the precise utility of this mathematical understanding in the wild remains a subject of deep study, it likely aids them in tracking rich floral resources, calculating flight distances, or navigating home, proving that advanced intelligence does not require massive neural real estate. The fruits of this unyielding labor are beautifully displayed upon the bee's hind limbs, where she accumulates vibrant, heavy bundles of pollen packed into a highly specialized structure known as the corbicula, or pollen basket. This organic transport system takes the form of a smooth, gently concave cradle situated on the outer surface of the tibia, framed by a border of long, stiff hairs designed to lock the precious cargo securely in place. As the explorer drifts through a blossom, her velvet body hairs naturally accumulate thousands of microscopic pollen grains through simple static friction. Pausing mid-air or resting upon a petal, she initiates a rapid, highly methodical grooming ballet. Using her front limbs, she systematically scrapes the dust forward, blending the loose powder with a tiny droplet of regurgitated nectar or sticky saliva to render it fully malleable. Using specialized combs on her opposite legs, she drives the sticky paste backward, packing it tightly into the corbiculae until she carries a pair of massive, brightly colored spheres. These golden bundles vary spectacularly in shade depending entirely on the landscape she harvested, shining a brilliant yellow from wild dandelions, turning a deep, rich orange from field poppies, or settling into a pale cream from spring apple blossoms. Watching a worker land heavily upon the threshold with her baskets filled to capacity is to witness a magnificent treasure trove of raw protein and essential fats, gathered through absolute devotion to nourish the sleeping larvae waiting in the dark nursery. In a fascinating contrast to their industrious, armed sisters, the male drones of the hive exist as entirely defenseless entities, completely lacking a stinger or any means of physical aggression. From an evolutionary standpoint, the stinger is a highly modified ovipositor, an ancestral egg-laying instrument, which means it is an anatomical feature possessed exclusively by the female population of the insect world. Consequently, the male drone is born without a needle, without a venom reservoir, and without the slightest instinct for hive defense, rendering him entirely harmless to any human handler. These gentle giants are remarkably easy to identify within the crowd. They boast significantly larger, blockier frames than the streamlined workers, and their massive compound eyes meet perfectly at the crown of their heads like a pilot's visor. Their biological purpose is entirely singular and romantic. They do not forage in the meadows, they shape no wax combs, and they provide no care to the growing larvae. Instead, they subside entirely on the honey gathered by their sisters, spending their afternoons flying out to specialized aerial crossroads known as drone congregation areas, where they hover in the breeze hoping to intercept a virgin queen on her sacred mating flight. This complete absence of defensive weaponry illustrates how precisely nature allocates its resources, focusing the drone's entire energy budget toward the continuation of the genetic lineage. The balance and demographic destiny of the entire society are masterfully governed by the queen, who possesses a profound biological ability to actively choose the sex of every single egg she deposits into the comb. This extraordinary control relies on a unique genetic system known as haplodiploidy, which dictates that female bees, both the sterile workers and future queens, are diploid creatures possessing 2 full sets of chromosomes derived from a fertilized egg, while male drones are haploid entities developing from unfertilized eggs with only a single set of maternal chromosomes. Within her abdomen, the matriarch carries a specialized storage organ known as the spermatheca, where millions of viable sperm cells collected during her youth are kept perfectly preserved for years. As she positions her body over a wax cell, she measures its dimensions with her sensitive front legs. If she encounters a standard worker-sized chamber, she deliberately releases a microscopic drop of sperm to fertilize the egg, birthing a loyal daughter. Conversely, if her limbs detect the wider, spacious dimensions of a drone cell, she holds the reservoir closed, depositing an unfertilized egg that will naturally mature into a male. Through this flawless internal orchestration, she tailors the population of her city in real time, rearing a massive army of daughters to harvest the great spring flows, and shifting to produce unfertilized sons only when the season demands the wild dance of reproduction. The workers actively provide real-time cues about what the colony needs, waiting until they sense the shifting rhythms of the seasons to construct larger drone comb when it is time to raise males. This sex determination system, called haplodiploidy, is incredibly unique and carries profound implications for bee social behavior and evolution. Because drones develop from unfertilized eggs and possess only a single set of maternal chromosomes, a fascinating genetic asymmetry emerges within the hive. Full sisters share an identical set of genes from their father alongside half of their mother's genetics, meaning they are more closely related to each other than a mother is to her own daughters. Some scientists believe this heightened genetic kinship favors the evolution of cooperation and extreme altruism among the worker daughters, driving them to sacrifice their own reproduction to tenderly rear their sisters, ensuring the survival of their shared genetic lineage. Like all insects, a bee's body is encased in an external skeleton made of chitin, a tough, flexible matrix that provides vital structural support, shields internal organs, and offers strong attachment points for her powerful muscles. This rigid armor, however, is incapable of gradual growth. As a hidden larva develops within the dark wax cell, it must systematically shed its outer casing multiple times through a process called molting. The larva swells inside its old exoskeleton until the shell becomes constrictingly tight. Then, specialized internal enzymes dissolve the inner layers of the old armor, allowing the larva to wriggle free and leave behind a thin, translucent casing. Underneath lies a new, larger exoskeleton that is still soft and pliable, which the larva quickly expands through deep breaths before the fresh armor cures and hardens. Honeybee larvae undergo this molting process exactly 5 times before pupation, with the final larval skin slipping away as the creature transforms into a pupa to begin the deep mystery of metamorphosis. This pupal stage is a time of dramatic biological reorganization, where ancestral larval structures are completely broken down so that magnificent adult features, like wings, legs, and complex compound eyes, can be sculpted anew. When the transformation is complete, the adult bee chews through her cell's wax cap and emerges into the light, a journey from egg to adult that spans about 21 days for workers, 24 for drones, and 16 for queens. While bees perceive a magnificent spectrum of colors, their visual reality is shifted dramatically compared to our own, leaning into an entirely different window of light. They are completely blind to the color red, which appears as a dark, colorless black in their mind. However, they can perceive ultraviolet light, a high-frequency wavelength completely invisible to the human eye. This means the color spectrum bees navigate ranges from ultraviolet through deep blues and greens into vibrant yellows. Research has demonstrated that bees possess powerful innate preferences for certain colors, showing an intense attraction to blues and royal purples, likely because many premier bee-pollinated flowers have evolved these exact shades to stand out strongly against the green foliage. While yellows and whites remain highly attractive, green leaves simply blend into a neutral background, and red blossoms are largely ignored unless they display ultraviolet markings. When cultivating a sanctuary garden, choosing flowers within this specific cool palette can significantly increase the frequency of their visits. Yet, this dialogue relies on more than simple color. Flower shape, sweet scent, and nectar quality are equally vital, with blossoms combining these irresistible cues into an ancient, multi-sensory language refined over millions of years of elegant collaboration. Navigation across a vast, changing landscape is a complex task, and these winged travelers have evolved multiple, overlapping strategies to flawlessly map their journeys back to the nest. Their primary compass is the sun, paired with a sophisticated internal circadian clock that tracks the precise hour of the day, allowing them to calculate exactly where the sun should be positioned at any given moment. By comparing the sun's actual place in the sky with their internal temporal map, they can accurately determine their compass direction. Even on overcast days when thick clouds completely obscure the sun, bees navigate effortlessly by reading polarized light. As sunlight filters through the atmosphere, it becomes polarized, creating complex geometric patterns of light waves across the sky that are invisible to humans, but perfectly clear to the compound eyes of a bee. These polarization patterns remain steady behind the clouds like a celestial compass, pointing the way home through specialized photoreceptors situated at the upper edge of their eyes. This dual navigation system ensures they rarely get lost, allowing them to return from miles away and communicate precise coordinates to their nestmates. This exquisite environmental awareness is the fruit of coevolution, an ancient botanical and zoological partnership that has been unfolding for over 100 million years. Many plants have sculpted their entire biology specifically to attract these insects, encouraging them to become efficient couriers of life. Tubular blossoms dressed in deep blues or purples, overflowing with sweet nectar, are classic examples of bee-engineered flowers. Their physical shapes provide wide landing platforms, curved nectar lines acting as guides, and specialized structures positioned to dust pollen onto precise locations of the bee's velvet body. In return, bees have evolved matching physical traits: tongue lengths custom fit to specific floral depths, sensory systems tuned to ultraviolet signals, and rapid learning abilities that allow them to temporarily specialize on a single crop. This beautiful interdependence is woven so deeply into the Earth's fabric that certain plant species have become entirely dependent on just one or two specific bee families for their reproduction. The loss of those specific pollinators would spell a quiet extinction for the plants, illustrating that each thread within this ancient partnership holds together the integrity of the wider living world. Humans have been fascinated by this harmony and have practiced the sacred craft of beekeeping since the dawn of memory. Evidence of our relationship with the hive stretches back at least 9,000 years, documented in ancient Spanish cave paintings that depict brave souls gathering wild honey from high cliffs. The ancient Egyptians elevated beekeeping into an advanced agricultural art, utilizing cylindrical hives shaped from sun-baked clay or woven straw, valuing honey and beeswax as precious commodities for food, medicine, holy rituals, and the sacred process of mummification. Throughout the Middle Ages, quiet European monasteries became the primary sanctuaries for beekeeping, where industrious monks harvested wax for altar candles and brewed golden mead from honey reserves. Traditional methods varied wildly across cultures, from hollow log hives and clay pots to woven straw skeps, until a profound revolution occurred in the mid-1800s. A visionary named Lorenzo Langstroth invented the modern movable frame hive, discovering the exact spatial dimension known as bee space, which allowed individual combs to be lifted, inspected, and returned without tearing down the hive's architecture. This single innovation made beekeeping infinitely more humane and productive, anchoring a 1,000-year-old partnership that continues to thrive across the globe today. When a successful forager returns to the dark hallways of her home, the geometric choreography of her waggle dance communicates far more than simple direction and distance. It broadcasts the absolute quality of the food source through pure physical intensity. When an explorer discovers a particularly rich meadow brimming with high-grade nectar or abundant pollen, she steps onto the vertical combs and dances with an immense, unmistakable energy. Her movements become faster, her repetitions last longer, and she vibrates her flight muscles to produce a series of passionate acoustic pulses. Other workers gathering in the darkness monitor this enthusiastic performance, assessing the value of the meadow based on the vigor of her choreography. A high-energy dance speaks of an exceptional, highly rewarding sanctuary worth the flight, while a brief, half-hearted movement suggests a sight that is merely ordinary. This decentralized information system allows the hive to allocate its workforce with fluid efficiency in real time, shifting hundreds of foragers toward the richest blossoms while letting recruitment drop for fading patches, ensuring the collective always exploits the best resources of the landscape without a single leader giving a command. This intricate social harmony is further refined by the youngest members of the community, for it is not only the queen who guides the collective through chemistry. The quiet larvae resting within their wax cradles produce a powerful blend of brood pheromones that actively regulate the behavior of the adult workforce. As nurse bees tend to the nursery, they absorb these volatile chemical signals emitted directly by the developing young, which communicate the exact age, hunger levels, and health of the brood. These larval pheromones act as a powerful behavioral trigger across the hive. They stimulate the older foragers to increase their collection of pollen to meet the nursery's demand for protein, while simultaneously instructing the house bees to maintain the perfect temperature around the cells. If the hive becomes overflowing with hungry larvae, the collective concentration of this brood scent rises, causing young workers to delay their transition into foragers so they can remain behind as dedicated nurses. Through this invisible, chemical dialogue passing between the silent infants and the adult daughters, the colony balances its daily labor and coordinates its complex society, proving that even the youngest lives within the hive hold an active voice in shaping the destiny of their family. This invisible, chemical dialogue passing between the silent infants and the adult daughters forms a beautifully balanced feedback loop that continuously dictates the internal economy of the hive. When the springtime nurseries swell with thousands of hungry larvae, the overall concentration of this brood pheromone climbs sharply, acting as an explicit, chemical directive that completely shifts the behavioral priorities of the foraging fleet. Recognizing the critical need for raw protein to sustain their growing sisters, the older field workers prioritize the collection of golden pollen, leaving the sweet reservoirs of nectar behind. Conversely, if the brood levels drop or the nursery slows its growth, the fading of the larval scent cues the colony to pivot its labor toward nectar gathering, naturally transitioning their focus to long-term honey storage for the coming winter. Through this fluid, decentralized network of chemical signals, the silent young effectively govern the actions of the adults, demonstrating that the hive operates not as a collection of isolated individuals, but as a singular, highly responsive superorganism where every cellular component adapts in real time to the changing rhythms of life. Yet, despite this magnificent biological coordination, these ancient societies remain deeply vulnerable to a harsh spectrum of microscopic pathogens, ranging from devastating bacterial plagues to silent, destructive viral epidemics. Among the most feared of these illnesses is American foul brood, a highly contagious bacterial disease that targets the helpless larvae within their sealed cradles, dissolving their developing tissues into a sticky, foul-smelling mass that can rapidly decimate an entire sanctuary. European foul brood offers a parallel, though often less lethal, bacterial challenge, while conditions like chalk brood and stone brood manifest as aggressive fungal infections that cause the young to freeze and mummify into hard, chalky stones within the comb. Simultaneously, the bees' digestive systems can be quietly compromised by nosema, a microsporidian parasite that disrupts their internal metabolism and severely saps their vitality. These physical stresses are further multiplied by modern viral threats, such as the deformed wing virus, which are efficiently spread across the population by the parasitic varroa mite, causing newborn workers to step into the world with crumpled, useless wings that doom them to a flightless, tragically shortened existence. Managing these invisible shadows requires unyielding vigilance from keepers, who must nurture strong genetics, rich floral nutrition, and low parasite counts to reinforce the natural defenses of these fragile lives. The scale of the hive. While the flame of an individual bee burns with a fragile, fleeting brevity, the collective entity of the colony possesses a magnificent form of generational immortality, stretching through time across years and decades. A typical summer worker literally exhausts her physical frame within 5 to 6 brief weeks of ceaseless field labor, while the specialized winter daughters live for a few months to carry the family through the frost. Even the majestic queen, who outlasts all her children, generally faces a decline in her immense reproductive capabilities after 3 to 5 seasons of continuous devotion. Yet, because the society is engineered to continuously renew itself from within, the passing of any single individual never halts the rhythm of the state. The moment the reigning matriarch's strength begins to fade, the worker daughters smoothly transition to rear a fresh, virgin queen from their nursery, allowing the lineage to continue its ancestral story without a single moment of interruption. In this way, the individual insect exists merely as a temporary, passing cell within a much grander, longer-lived organism, a living thread that endures through changing seasons and passing years, constantly cycling through transient generations while preserving its sacred identity, its home, and its golden treasures. This brilliant adaptability is physically etched into the very architecture of their home, as the workers masterfully adjust the spatial dimensions of their wax cells to perfectly match the shifting, seasonal requirements of the state. The comb is far from a uniform, rigid matrix. Rather, it is a highly responsive structural network where every single chamber is precisely sized and custom-tailored for its specific, intended occupant. Standard worker brood cells are meticulously sculpted to measure exactly 5.2 millimeters across, providing the tight, snug enclosure necessary for a developing female labor to undergo her metamorphosis. When the warm horizons of spring signal that it is time to raise independent male sons for the wild dance of reproduction, the architects effortlessly widen their geometry to construct larger drone cells measuring 6.4 millimeters across, while carving out even deeper, more spacious reservoirs elsewhere for storing honey. This subtle variance in scale carries immense evolutionary weight. If a fertilized female egg is placed within a standard worker chamber, it matures into a loyal daughter, yet the exact same egg deposited within the wider dimensions of a drone cell would fail to develop properly. The honeycomb stands as a flawless monument to instinctual precision, where physics and biology interlock perfectly to create an adaptable architecture built entirely without a master blueprint. The architecture of the comb, worker brood cells, sculpted to an exact, snug dimension of 5.2 millimeters across, custom-tailored for female larvae. Drone brood cells, expanded effortlessly to 6.4 millimeters across to accommodate the larger, blockier frames of the male sons. Storage cells, designed with greater depth and width to maximize the preservation of golden honey reserves. Queen cradles, massive, peanut-shaped chambers constructed to hang vertically from the edges of the comb. By anchoring this immaculate physical precision to an extraordinarily sharp olfactory system, these insects have opened breathtaking new doorways in modern search and rescue research, proving that their senses can be elegantly directed to assist in solving profound human crises. Utilizing the timeless mechanics of classical conditioning, scientists can easily train a small group of honeybees to link virtually any target fragrance, from illicit substances and toxic chemical leaks to the faint signature of human breath markers, with a rewarding taste of pure sugar water. Within a mere handful of these associative lessons, the insects firmly imprint the chemical code, automatically extending their long proboscis in eager anticipation the exact instant they encounter the scent, even when it is drifting in vanishingly small concentrations of parts per trillion. This hypersensitive biological radar has inspired experimental initiatives focused on deploying trained bees to locate disaster survivors trapped beneath rubble, or to map the precise borders of forgotten battlefields by identifying the microscopic scent trail of buried explosives. Their olfactory systems naturally rival the most sophisticated digital technologies created by human engineering, serving as a beautiful reminder that these tiny woodland travelers possess a deep, chemical understanding of the world that we are only beginning to unlock. The delicate balance of this ancient sensory world, however, is currently facing immense strain due to the sweeping disruptions of global climate change, which continuously challenges the historical synchronization between the insect and the flora. As seasonal temperatures rise unpredictably and traditional weather patterns fracture, a troubling phenological mismatch begins to unfold across our meadows. Many native wildflowers are coaxed into blooming significantly earlier in the spring, opening their petals before the winter hives have even begun to awaken. Consequently, when the foraging fleets finally emerge into the morning air, they frequently discover that their primary floral banquets have already faded, leaving them to navigate a landscape deprived of vital early-season nourishment. Furthermore, intense heat waves and prolonged droughts actively dry out the earth, drastically reducing overall blossom abundance and freezing the secret secretion of sweet nectar within the petals. Faced with these shifting thermal boundaries, certain vulnerable bee lineages are being forced to alter their historical ranges, migrating northward or climbing to higher, cooler elevations in a desperate search for sanctuary. These environmental pressures add a heavy layer of stress on top of existing pesticide exposure and habitat loss, transforming the struggles of the bee into a clear, whispering warning about the broader structural health of the living ecosystems that sustain us all. This modern environmental crisis threatens a sacred partnership that has outlasted shifting continents and planetary extinctions, tracing its beautiful origin back over 100 million years to the dramatic twilight of the Cretaceous period. Before this grand evolutionary awakening, the terrestrial Earth was a quiet, shadowed expanse dominated entirely by non-flowering conifers, ancient ferns, and prehistoric mosses. Yet, as the very first flowering plants began to diversify across the landscape, primitive insects branching away from predatory wasp lineages began visiting these new blossoms in a quest for food. Plants that successfully developed vibrant colors, intoxicating perfumes, and sweet nectar rewards secured an immense reproductive advantage, drawing these winged couriers to carry their genetic treasures across the ancient valleys. In immediate response, the insects refined their own anatomy, sculpting specialized mouth parts, sensitive compound eyes, and feathery body hairs to become the premier caretakers of the emerging flora. This profound, ancient dialogue of color, shape, and scent sparked a rapid explosion of biodiversity across both kingdoms, turning a primitive landscape into the vibrant, flower-strewn world we inherit today. A timeless collaboration proving that true abundance is born not from isolated competition, but from deep, symbiotic cooperation. The shadows of the hive. While the narrative of the hive is often painted in strokes of idyllic cooperation, the dark interior of the wax fortress is a stage for constant, relentless struggle. Among the most destructive forces a colony can encounter is the greater wax moth, Galleria melanella, a drab-gray intruder that infiltrates the gates under the cover of night. These opportunistic pests specifically target colonies already weakened by disease, starvation, or queenlessness. Once inside, the female moth deposits clusters of eggs into the tightest cracks and crevices of the hive. When the larvae hatch, they unleash a devastating campaign of consumption. They tunnel directly through the vertical combs, devouring the costly beeswax, pollen stores, and even the defenseless bee larvae resting in their cradles. As they feed, the caterpillars spin a dense, messy web of silken tunnels choked with frass, their dark excrement, which webs the delicate geometry of the comb together into a ruinous tangle. A severe, unchecked infestation completely destroys the hive's infrastructure, rendering the combs entirely unusable and forcing the remaining bees to abandon their ancestral home in a desperate, final swarm. In an abandoned nest or a hollow wild tree, these moths operate as nature's necessary recyclers, breaking down old, diseased wax and returning vital nutrients to the floor of the ecosystem. But within a living city, they are a terrifying engine of ruin, held at bay only by the unyielding vigilance of a robust worker force that patrols the dark borders, ready to drag the intruders out into the light. The fury of the heatball, against larger, armored predators that view the hive as a rich banquet of protein and honey. The insects have evolved cooperative defense strategies of astonishing sophistication and lethal precision. In the mountain forests of Asia, native honeybees, Apis cerana, face a monstrous predator, the giant hornet, Vespa mandarinia, a scout from whose colony can single-handedly slaughter thousands of bees within hours. Because their stinger cannot easily pierce the hornet's thick chitinous armor, the native bees deploy an extraordinary collective tactic known as the heatballing response. The moment a hornet scout breaches the threshold of the hive, she is not met with isolated attacks. Instead, hundreds of worker sisters instantly surge over the predator in a synchronized, living wave, completely engulfing the giant in a tight, suffocating sphere of vibrating bodies. Once the ball is formed, every individual bee uncouples her wings, and begins intensely shivering her massive thoracic flight muscles, transforming the sphere into an organic convection oven. Through this frantic, collective friction, the temperature at the absolute core of the ball rapidly climbs to a searing 46 degrees Celsius to 47 degrees Celsius, 115 Fahrenheit degrees to 117 Fahrenheit degrees. This precise thermal sealing is a masterclass in evolutionary calculation. It rests just a single degree below the honeybee's own lethal limit, but comfortably above the hornet's maximum heat tolerance. Trapped within this living furnace, the giant hornet is essentially cooked alive by the collective fever of the hive. Western honeybees, Apis mellifera, having evolved without the presence of these giant hornets, completely lack this specialized behavioral script, leaving them tragically vulnerable to ambush and underscoring the deep, ancestral intelligence written into the lineage of those who learned to fight back through the power of the many. Keystone architects of the wild, the rhythmic, daily routine of a bee drifting from blossom to blossom operates as the foundational thread holding together the rich tapestry of global biodiversity. In the realm of ecology, bees are universally recognized as a premier keystone species, an organism whose presence supports a disproportionate amount of life across the landscape. When their velvet bodies successfully pollinate a wild meadow, they are not merely aiding the reproduction of individual plants. They are igniting a massive, positive chain reaction that ripples outward through every tier of the food web. The ecological cascade, the canopy of abundance. Effective pollination enables wild trees, shrubs, and flowers to produce an abundance of nutrient-dense seeds, berries, and fruits. The herbivore feast. This seasonal bounty serves as the primary sustenance for countless insect species, foraging birds, and small mammals. The predator horizon. As these small herbivorous populations flourish, they provide a stable hunting resource for apex predators, from raptors to larger carnivores. The shield of resilience. High genetic diversity within pollinated plant populations ensures the entire ecosystem can withstand severe environmental shocks like remove this single, buzzing link from the chain, and the colored landscapes begin to quietly unravel. Without their intercession, specialized plant populations decline, triggering an immediate collapse in the food supplies and natural shelters that land animals depend upon. By weaving invisible lines of generation across gardens, forests, and valleys, the humblebee functions as the silent guardian of the world's biodiversity hotspots, keeping our planet resilient, varied, and beautifully alive. Alchemical joy, the legacy of mead. The sweet abundance harvested by these insects has left a deep, intoxicating imprint on the cultural history of humanity, giving rise to mead, one of our species' absolute oldest fermented beverages. Long before humanity mastered the cultivation of the vine for wine or the harvesting of grains for beer, ancient gatherers discovered that if pure wild honey was simply blended with water, the invisible, ambient yeasts floating in the air would naturally begin to feast upon the rich sugars. This simple, elegant fermentation process breaks down the honey, transforming it into a complex elixir rich with alcohol and effervescence. Archaeological discoveries have unearthed pottery residues proving that mead was being thoughtfully crafted and consumed in ancient China over 9,000 years ago, while its golden presence flows heavily through the earliest liturgical texts of Egypt, Greece, and Rome. In the sun-starved landscapes of northern Europe, where grapes refused to grow but wild hives were abundant, mead became the lifeblood of cultural celebration. It filled the carved horns of Norse mead halls and fueled the mystical feasts of Celtic lore, universally revered not merely as a drink, but as a magical, sacred fluid capable of conferring raw physical strength, poetic inspiration, and divine wisdom to those who shared it. Today, this historic beverage is experiencing a magnificent revival among modern craft creators, restoring an ancient, visceral bridge between the wild spaces of the bee and our own communal rituals of joy. sentinels of environmental health. In the modern era, these complex societies have taken on an invaluable new role as profound bioindicators, living environmental mirrors whose internal health, population density, and collective behaviors offer scientists a real-time diagnosis of the surrounding landscape's ecological integrity. Because an individual hive sends thousands of dedicated foragers to sweep across every square inch of the surrounding countryside, absorbing the water, touching the soil, and tasting the flora, the colony functions as a hypersensitive environmental filter. By closely monitoring the stability of wild populations and checking managed hives, researchers can read early warning signals of hidden environmental degradation long before it becomes visible to human eyes. A sudden drop in numbers or erratic shift in foraging behavior can tip off scientists to invisible pesticide contamination, structural habitat loss, or the subtle, disruptive stresses of changing global climates. Through the rise of global citizen science initiatives, ordinary nature lovers are now tracking seasonal sightings and contributing photos to massive, open-source databases, turning the simple act of watching a bee into a vital piece of conservation data. They are the Earth's miniature messengers. When their collective voice begins to falter or fade into an anxious silence, it is a clear sign that the vital systems that support all terrestrial life are drifting out of balance. The acoustic landscape of the colony. The deep, vertical corridors of the hive are never a place of dead silence. They are an acoustic landscape pulsing with a continuous, symphonic conversation where every buzz, pulse, and subterranean hum carries vital societal data. Modern entomologists utilizing ultra-sensitive microphones have begun to continuously map these internal soundscapes, decoding an intricate vocabulary of frequencies produced as the workers vibrate their massive thoracic muscles against the resonant wax combs. The voices of the hive. The virgin queen's piping, a sharp, high-pitched, trumpet-like tone emitted as a newly emerged monarch presses her thorax to the comb, announcing her royal presence to the workers and throwing down an acoustic challenge to any hidden rivals. The worker hum, a steady, contented, low-frequency drone that resonates through a healthy, well-provisioned colony, signaling absolute internal balance. The cry of queenlessness, a sharp, erratic, or deeply subdued lamentation that fills the chambers the moment the collective realizes their mother has vanished, a sound so distinct that seasoned keepers can diagnose the tragedy by ear alone. The stop pulse, a brief, specialized vibrational tap deployed by workers to immediately halt a sister's waggle dance whenever external scouts register danger on the trail. Through the integration of modern artificial intelligence and remote acoustic monitoring apps, keepers can now continuously audit these frequencies from afar, recognizing preparations for an impending swarm or detecting the early warning murmurs of an encroaching disease outbreak without ever lifting the outer lid. Listening to this subtle acoustic web reveals a sophisticated, highly conversational network where information flows continuously through the dark, proving that the hive survives by remaining in a perpetual, symphonic dialogue with itself. How does this deeper look into the defensive struggles and hidden senses of the hive reshape your view of how these tiny societies navigate their world? The emerald canopy of concrete, urban sanctuary. In a striking twist of ecological adaptation, the concrete jungles of our modern world have begun to transform into unexpected safe havens for these ancient travelers. As urban beekeeping flourishes on skyscraper rooftops, community gardens, and quiet balconies, cities are revealing themselves to be remarkably rich, hospitable habitats. Far from the vast, chemical-heavy monocultures of industrial agriculture, a city's landscape features a dense, diverse mosaic of backyard gardens, public parks, and ornamental street foliage that provides an uninterrupted banquet of varying blossoms from early spring through the final frosts of autumn. This urban landscape often suffers far fewer heavy pesticide applications than its rural counterparts. Furthermore, a unique meteorological phenomenon known as the urban heat island effect, where dense concrete and asphalt trap radiant solar warmth, creates a slightly elevated microclimate in urban areas. This localized warmth subtly extends the seasonal foraging window for the neighborhood hives, keeping the workers airborne for weeks longer than their forest-dwelling sisters. Yet, the true impact of this urban apiary movement reaches far beyond the harvesting of metropolitan honey. It operates as a profound engine of local conservation and public education. By opening their hives for community workshops, hosting rooftop tours, and demonstrating the delicate machinery of pollination to city dwellers, urban beekeepers are dismantling long-held public fears and inspiring a collective return to bee-friendly practices. This intimate re-exposure to the natural world reminds city dwellers that even amidst asphalt and glass, the ancient, wild processes of life continue uninterrupted. This movement transforms ordinary concrete blocks into rich corridors of local biodiversity, inviting the gentle hum of the wild back into spaces where it had been silent for generations. The shadow of sentience, the inner life of the bee. As cognitive science probes deeper into the minuscule, highly efficient brain of the insect, our traditional view of bees as simple, deterministic biological machines is giving way to a profound revelation. These creatures may experience something akin to subjective emotional states and a rudimentary inner life. In fascinating behavioral experiments, researchers have subjected honeybees to sudden, stressful environmental disruptions, such as a period of vigorous mechanical shaking meant to simulate a passing predator attack. Following this trauma, the insects consistently exhibited a striking cognitive shift that closely mirrors mammalian anxiety or pessimism. When presented with ambiguous, unfamiliar stimuli, the shaken bees acted with extreme, prolonged caution, routinely choosing to expect a negative outcome. Conversely, when individual bees were treated to unexpected, highly rewarding drops of rich sucrose, they demonstrated a distinct positive cognitive bias, moving through the world with an optimistic curiosity, showing an increased willingness to explore unfamiliar spaces and take measured risks. While these subtle shifts in behavior do not definitively prove that an insect experiences a complex emotional landscape identical to human feelings, they reveal an internal mechanism that goes far beyond simple stimulus-response programming. The bee possesses an integrated, dynamic internal state that acts as a cognitive lens, actively altering her real-time decision-making based on her recent life experiences. Recognizing that these fragile entities possess a form of subjective experience alters our ethical relationship with the hive. They can no longer be viewed merely as convenient biological utilities or disposable agricultural tools. Instead, they emerge as individual, feeling entities that perceive and react to the world in their own distinct way, demanding not just our environmental protection, but our deep moral consideration. The computational hive, masters of mathematics. The exquisite structural and social choices perfected by the hive across millions of years have transformed these insects into profound teachers for the fields of human mathematics, computer science, and engineering. For centuries, brilliant human mathematicians wrestled with a complex spatial problem known as the honeycomb conjecture, attempting to prove rigorously what bees have demonstrated effortlessly for millennia: that a repeating matrix of perfect hexagons is the absolute most efficient geometric configuration to completely divide a two-dimensional space into equal parts using the absolute minimum amount of structural material. In the digital world of computer science, the geometric precision of the waggle dance has inspired highly sophisticated optimization scripts known to engineers as swarm intelligence algorithms. By mimicking the decentralized democratic communication network of a foraging hive, these computer models successfully solve incredibly complex, real-world logistical problems. From routing fleets of global delivery vehicles and streamlining telecommunications data networks to optimizing automated assembly processes. Biomimetic architecture and engineering. Aerodynamic drones. Roboticists carefully chart the rapid, micro-adjustments of a bee navigating high-velocity winds to design highly stable, autonomous micro-air vehicles. Biomimetic buildings. Architects study the cooperative fanning methods bees deploy to regulate the interior humidity and climate of the hive to engineer eco-friendly, self-ventilating skyscrapers. Decentralized AI. Software engineers analyze the collective decision-making of migrating swarms to build robust artificial intelligence networks that operate without a central processor. The multimodal map, navigating by scent and sight. To traverse vast landscapes extending several kilometers away from their dark home and return with absolute certainty day after day. These winged navigators rely on a highly sophisticated, multimodal mapping system that seamlessly synthesizes inputs from their visual and olfactory senses. While their primary directional guides are the sun compass and the shifting patterns of polarized skylight, bees overlay this celestial blueprint with an intricate mental map of physical, visual landmarks across the landscape. As they fly, their compound eyes carefully register the silhouettes of distinctive trees, prominent buildings, fences, and the changing geometries of light and shadow, locking these visual anchors into their long-term memory. Should a well-meaning researcher artificially move these familiar visual landmarks even a short distance, the returning foragers will immediately become disoriented, demonstrating how heavily they rely on these physical signposts to confirm they are on the proper path. Yet, this navigational tapestry is made even richer by the addition of olfactory landmarks drifting on the afternoon wind. Bees possess the ability to perceive and navigate along complex, chemical scent plumes released by massive fields of blooming flowers, tracking these invisible trails from significant distances across a broken terrain. Furthermore, the hive itself carries a highly distinct, unique chemical signature, a family perfume that allows returning workers to literally smell their way back across the threshold of their specific home. Certain species will even deliberately mark premier forage trails, or the threshold of their nest with specialized pheromone droplets to assist their sisters in relocating the site, showcasing a robust navigation system where multiple senses interlock to grant a tiny insect complete geographical mastery over her world. The alchemical tonic, the legacy of royal jelly. Among the diverse substances crafted within the secret economy of the hive, none has captivated the human imagination or fueled traditional medicine across history quite like royal jelly. This thick, pale, nutrient-dense substance is not harvested from the fields. Rather, it is an elite elixir secreted directly from the hypopharyngeal glands of young nurse bees, dedicated exclusively to the nourishment of developing larvae and the lifelong sustenance of the queen. Packed with high-quality proteins, essential lipids, vital vitamins, and a unique array of bioactive compounds, this substance has been a cornerstone of traditional Chinese medicine for over a millennium, valued as a supreme tonic believed to promote longevity, restore lost vitality, and fortify the human immune system. In other ancestral traditions, it was prized as a luxurious skin treatment and a shield against seasonal illnesses. In our modern era, laboratory science has begun to audit these traditional claims with complex results. While multiple studies confirm that royal jelly possesses distinct antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial traits in controlled lab settings, definitive clinical evidence proving its long-term health benefits in human physiology remains limited. Despite this ongoing scientific uncertainty, royal jelly remains an incredibly prized, highly sought-after natural supplement. Our continued fascination with this royal food reflects an ancient relationship with the hive, showing that humanity has always sought to absorb not just the sweet energy of honey or the physical illumination of wax, but the very chemical secrets of health and longevity crafted by the bee. The philosopher's hive, models of the sovereign state. Beyond the practical harvesting of sweet honey or the engineering of modern algorithms, the immaculate, cooperative architecture of the hive has functioned as a powerful, living mirror for human philosophers, moralists, and ethical thinkers throughout our intellectual history. The highly organized, self-sacrificing structure of bee society has been held up across eras as the supreme natural model of tireless industry, social harmony, and flawless organization. The history of ideas. Aristotle, the classical Greek philosopher, meticulously studied the internal structures of the hive, marveling at its complex social hierarchy and using its order to explore the natural origins of political states. Virgil, in his celebrated Georgics, the Roman poet sang praises to the absolute devotion of the worker bees, casting their selfless labor as the ultimate expression of civic virtue and patriotism. Medieval monks, within the quiet cloisters of the Middle Ages, Christian scholars viewed the hive as a living metaphor for a perfect religious community, where individual desires were entirely surrendered for the collective preservation of the sanctuary. The Enlightenment. Thinkers like Bernard Mandeville utilized the complex economy of the insects to debate human morality and commerce, publishing The Fable of the Bees to explore how individual drives can paradoxically generate public prosperity and shared wealth. In our contemporary era, this philosophical dialogue has shifted toward the fields of evolutionary biology and consciousness, forcing thinkers to grapple with deep questions regarding altruism, kin selection, and how complex social structures can emerge from the simplicity of individual actions. The bee challenges our traditional definitions of intellect, showing us that high-level coordination does not require a single, tyrannical ruler, and that an enduring, beautiful complexity can flourish completely without centralized command. The Rising Dawn, the legacy of conservation. While the contemporary challenges encircling global bee populations remain severe, a sweeping, global awakening of proactive conservation initiatives is offering a bright ray of genuine hope for the future of these ancient pollinators. Across the planet, an interconnected network of dedicated international conservation groups, cutting-edge research laboratories, and passionate local citizens are actively mobilizing to reshape the landscapes we share with these insects. Scientific institutions are currently leading breakthrough breeding initiatives to reinforce the natural genetic resilience of honeybees, selecting for distinct hygienic traits that empower the colonies to actively resist the devastating pressures of the varroa mite and combat encroaching bacterial plagues without relying on synthetic chemical treatments. Simultaneously, forward-thinking agricultural communities are altering traditional farming blueprints by deliberately planting wide, native wildflower margins along the outer edges of their commercial crops, significantly reducing chemical pesticide use, and meticulously timing any necessary applications to ensure they occur only when the local foraging fleets are resting safely within their hives. At the individual level, this movement is being championed by a vast army of urban gardeners and suburban homeowners who are actively tearing up manicured, sterile lawns to install vibrant pollinator oases rich with native flora, pesticide-free sanctuaries, and wooden bee hotels for independent solitary mothers. These collective multi-tiered efforts serve as a profound reminder that we possess the power to break the cycle of environmental degradation and restore balance to our ecosystems. By taking deliberate, thoughtful action to rebuild these living spaces, we are doing far more than simply safeguarding the future of a single insect. We are actively mending the complex web of life that sustains the natural world, ensuring that the ancient, beautiful harmony between human and hive continues to thrive for generations to come. In looking back across this grand tapestry of history, science, and sensory wonder, what element of the bee's intricate relationship with the world surprises or inspires you the most? The tapestry of the law, a global shield. The rising tide of environmental awareness has gracefully crystallized into a profound, multi-tiered framework of legal and policy transformations spanning local, national, and international boundaries. Recognizing that the survival of these essential pollinators is inextricably linked to global food security and ecological stability, forward-thinking governments have begun to enact sweeping legislative protections. Entire geographic regions have instituted historic bans on systemic neurotoxic pesticides, most notably neonicotinoids, which science has conclusively shown disrupt a bee's delicate internal navigation and cripple her immune system. Simultaneously, international conservation treaties are actively funding expansive, cross-border research initiatives while establishing massive, legally protected pollinator corridors. These ecological highways link fragmented wild spaces together, ensuring that migrating swarms always possess a continuous, pesticide-free canopy of native forage. Parallel to these structural legal shields, innovative educational curriculums and public awareness campaigns are systematically dispelling age-old myths, transforming lingering public anxiety into a culture of mindful coexistence. A vibrant, deeply passionate generation of young people has stepped forward to champion this cause, viewing the fragile health of the bee as the ultimate, living symbol of global environmental integrity. Through localized activism, from carving out wildflower sanctuaries in schoolyards to lobbying municipal councils for chemical-free public parks, this global movement is successfully bending the curve of ecological decline. For the very first time in decades, targeted monitoring programs are documenting the quiet, steady recovery of several critically vulnerable pollinator lineages, proving that when humanity chooses to align its laws with the patterns of the natural world, nature responds with an immediate, magnificent resilience. The sovereign soul, individuality within the mass. It is beautifully simple to gaze upon a swirling cloud of thousands of bees and perceive them merely as interchangeable, deterministic cogs operating within a massive, faceless collective. Yet, modern behavioral biology has unveiled a far more tender reality. Each individual worker-daughter steps into the light as a unique entity, possessing her own distinct temperament, her own capacity for learning, and a personal matrix of life experiences. Long-term tracking studies have revealed striking personality variations within a single colony's workforce, documenting an internal spectrum of behavioral temperaments that challenges our traditional understanding of social insects. The behavioral spectrum of the individual. The bold explorers, high-threshold individuals possessing an innate curiosity and a profound willingness to take immense risks, charting solitary flights into entirely unfamiliar landscapes to discover untapped floral treasures. The cautious conservers, methodical, risk-averse foragers who excel at safely exploiting known, highly reliable resource patches, passing up ambiguous scents to ensure a guaranteed return for the nursery. The master scholars, individual bees who demonstrate an exceptionally rapid capacity to decode complex mechanical puzzles, mastering difficult floral architecture far faster than their companions. When her final, brief season of field labor draws to its inevitable close, an individual bee's ultimate flight, the solitary voyage from which her velvet wings will never return, is an event entirely unique to her own story. Whether she is gracefully intercepted by a foraging bird beneath the canopy, grows quietly exhausted amidst a sudden afternoon headwind, or simply reaches the natural end of her physical frame after miles of devotion, she surrenders a life that was complete and entirely her own. She has known the immediate, radiant warmth of the morning sun. She has parsed the deep, chemical vocabulary of 1,000 blossoms, and she has felt the comforting, low-frequency hum of her sister's wings vibrating through the dark wax galleries. She has tasted the pure alchemical sweetness of living nectar and navigated the open earth by reading the celestial stars of polarized light. To watch a single worker drift across a petal and consciously recognize her deep individuality is to fundamentally shift our perspective, transforming her from a mere unit of colonial utility into a living being with her own brief, sacred narrative. The soundtrack of the sun, the timeless hum. There are few sensory experiences across the earth as instantly evocative or deeply anchoring as the soft, resonant hum of bees drifting through a sun-drenched summer afternoon. This low, continuous vibration operates as the absolute, acoustic soundtrack of a flourishing landscape, an unmistakable auditory signal that the natural world is operating in states of profound abundance, warmth, and unchecked growth. It is a sound that speaks of ripening fruit hidden beneath heavy leaves, of wild gardens overflowing with pollen dust, and of long, golden days where the boundary between afternoon and twilight blurs into a peaceful stillness. For the human heart, this gentle murmur triggers a deep, visceral nostalgia, instantly carrying the mind back to the lazy afternoons of childhood, the quiet sanctuary of overgrown meadows, and the comforting peace of a world operating exactly as it should. This specific, acoustic frequency has been shared by every single generation of humanity, echoing entirely unchanged across thousands of years of human civilization. It is a primal cadence that predates our earliest cities and will, if we preserve its sanctuary, continue to resonate long after our own busy histories have drifted into memory. In the continuous hum of the bee, there lies a magnificent, unbroken continuity, a living bridge linking our ancestral past directly to the unwritten horizons of the future. It serves as a gentle, rhythmic reminder that despite the frantic, distracted pace of our modern lives, the small, routinely overlooked caretakers of the earth are quietly carrying out the foundational labor that holds the fabric of life together. Within this quiet murmur rests the eternal promise of seasonal renewal, the steady, rhythmic turning of the earth's cycles, and the beautiful reassurance that nature persists through countless small actions, repeated endlessly in the quiet of the wild. The masterclass of stillness, a lesson in mindfulness. To truly encounter the profound depth of the hive, one must consciously step away from the relentless acceleration of human time and learn the art of slowing down. If you sit entirely still within the heart of a blooming garden and allow your focus to settle, the arrival of a single foraging bee becomes an intimate masterclass in absolute mindfulness. The moment she lands delicately upon the swaying threshold of a blossom, she becomes entirely enveloped by the immediate present, turning her full attention to the architecture of the petal before her. She does not rush. She does not exhibit the frantic, anxious haste that defines our own modern spaces. Instead, she moves with an unhurried, beautifully purposeful rhythm, methodically exploring the deepest recesses of the flower to extract the precious elements she requires before lifting off to hover, realign her internal compass, and glide toward the next bloom. In quietly observing her labor, you are warmly invited to adopt her pace, allowing the vast, distracting worries of the wider world to gently fade until your reality narrows entirely to this single flower, this single bee, and this single passing moment. Time begins to stretch elegantly, revealing magnificent, hidden details that are entirely lost to the hurried eye. The microscopic grains of golden pollen powdering her velvet thighs, the exquisite, glass-like translucence of her double wings, and the absolute, hairbreadth precision of her limbs as they sweep across her compound eyes. You begin to truly hear the deep acoustic resonance of her vibration, feel the direct warmth of the sun casting shadows across the leaves, and breathe in the rich, heavy perfumes of the surrounding earth. In a world defined by fractured attention and digital noise, the bee offers a gentle, visceral lesson in the grace of repetition, reminding us that the grandest, most enduring structures of life are built not from frantic haste, but from small, careful actions accumulated tenderly over time. Rest now amidst the golden meadow, and so our long, winding journey through the secret world of the bee naturally draws to a gentle, quiet rest. Our shared exploration has carried us from the flawless, mathematical economy of the wax honeycomb to the profound, life-altering chemistry of royal jelly. From the ancient, charcoal cave paintings of early gatherers to the cutting-edge frontiers of modern swarm robotics, and from the dark, conversational dance floor of the hive to the brilliant, ultraviolet landscapes where the bee and the flower meet in an ancient, symbiotic embrace. We have marveled together at navigational systems that read the polarization of the sky, communication networks that operate without a single dictator, and social structures that match our own civilizations in pure, breathtaking complexity. We have witnessed how their invisible daily flights actively sculpt entire ecosystems, safeguard global agriculture, and provide an endless wellspring of inspiration for human art, philosophy, and computing science. Yet, when all these extraordinary details are softly stripped away, they leave behind a truth that is infinitely simpler and deeper. Bees are our mirror, reminding us of our absolute, unbreakable connection to the natural world. They show us with absolute clarity that humanity does not stand separate from the environment, but is completely woven into its fabric, dependent upon the very same blossoms, the very same sun, and the very same turning of the seasons to survive. They teach us a profound lesson in humility, illustrating that a tiny, ephemeral creature carrying a brain no larger than a single grass seed can master problems that our grandest technologies are only beginning to decipher. They demonstrate the immense, transformative power of collective cooperation, the beautiful truth that when separate individuals choose to direct their labors toward a common good, they can sustain an entire world. As you close your eyes now and allow your thoughts to drift, imagine yourself resting quietly within the heart of a vast, warm summer meadow. Around you, wild stems of clover, chicory, and goldenrod sway with a slow, hypnotic grace in a soft, cooling breeze. The air is thick and sweet with the rich scent of sun-warmed grass and open blossoms, and the sky above is an endless, cloudless canopy of deep, tranquil blue. And all around you, rising and falling like a gentle breath, is the soft, barely audible hum of the bees. They drift effortlessly from bloom to bloom in accordance with an ancient, unbroken pattern, carrying out the quiet, foundational labor that has sustained the living earth for over 100 million years. The sound is entirely peaceful, deeply reassuring, and completely timeless, the very voice of nature's patient persistence, where countless small, beautiful efforts add up to something magnificent. Let that steady, golden cadence carry you completely away now, drifting easily into rest, into dreams, and into those quiet spaces where all worry dissolves into stillness. The bees will still be there tomorrow, awakening beneath the morning sun to gather the sweetness of the world, reminding us of the small, essential acts that hold the entire universe together. Breathe deeply, let go of the day, and fade into the warm, protective glow of the summer light. Good night.